Chapter 410. At Shanghai. At the entrance of the Everlasting Feast Hall, Qi Nan, who was wearing a blue and white cheongsam, kept looking at the street corner in the distance. She had received a call from the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ in Jingmen Island, telling her to rush back immediately. However, just as she arrived at the airport, she received a call informing her that she no longer needed to go to Jingmen Island, and that Elder Ji would be arriving at Shanghai today. Qi Nan couldn't understand why Elder Ji would come to Shanghai since her boss was not currently in Shanghai. However, Elder Ji's status was extremely high, so she must be prepared to receive him. Creak. A taxi stopped in front of Qi Nan. As the door opened, Tan Xiu got off and asked, "Has Ji Qimei arrived yet?" Upon seeing Tan Xiu, a stunned expression appeared on Qi Nan's face. But in the blink of an eye, she reacted and quickly said, "Boss, Elder Ji hasn't arrived yet." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Prepare some food for me first. When Ji Qimei arrives, immediately bring her to see me." Understood. Qi Nan nodded respectfully. Half an hour later, just as Tan Xiu was full, Ji Qimei rushed to the Everlasting Feast Hall. Inside the general manager's office, Tan Xiu took out the demonic revival grass from his interspatial ring and gave it to Ji Qimei, saying, "I didn't expect that the demonic revival grass would exist on Earth. It took me some effort to find it, but I finally found it. Therefore, you're in charge of keeping it. There must be no mistake." The demonic revival grass? Ji Qimei received a call from Tan Xiu, telling her to rush to Shanghai immediately. She was still full of confusion, but at this time, she finally understood the purpose of Tan Xiu's sending her here. Disbelief flashed in her eyes, and her hands slightly trembled as she received the demonic revival grass. Plop. Ji Qimei knelt in front of Tan Xiu and excitedly said, "Thank you, Lord." Tan Xiu personally helped her up and shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. I should be the one thanking you. Yen is my disciple, and you have loyally protected her for so many years. To me, this kindness is too great." Ji Qimei stood up and put the demonic revival grass into her interspatial ring. Then she shook her head and said, "The lives of our Charm Clan's clansmen were given by Venerable Lord, and my life was also saved by Master. Protecting her is my duty." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "You've just arrived in Shanghai. Go rest if you're tired, or return to Jingmen Island earlier if you're not. Yenner is in a coma. You shouldn't be away for too long." "Yes, I will return immediately," Ji Qimei respectfully said. Along with Ji Qimei's departure, Qi Nan entered the office with a curious look on her face and said, "Boss, why did old Ji leave in such a hurry without eating anything?" Tan Xiu said, "She has an urgent matter to attend to." "Is there anything else, boss?" Qi Nan nodded. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "No. I'll take a break and then leave." "That's right. What's today's date?" "Today's the 21st, said Qi Nan with a smile. "The 21st? Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he immediately said with a smile, "Fortunately, I came back in time. The freshman military training of Shanghai University should be over tomorrow. I'll take a break the day after tomorrow, and the class will officially start the day after that." "It doesn't matter to you whether you start a class a day earlier or a day later, right?" Qi Nan said with a smile. "I didn't even participate in the military training, after all. If I were to play truant again, it would be a bit unreasonable." Tan Xiu said, "That's right. How is Xueqiao doing here?" "He's very loyal, honest, and diligent." Qi Nan nodded. "The staff in our restaurant likes the family of three very much." "That's good then," said Tan Xiu. "Xueqiao should go back to campus in 2 days, so let his wife and child stay here. You take care of them." "All right." Qi Nan nodded. A trace of hesitation suddenly appeared on her face as she whispered, "Boss, the Jingmen Island HQ originally told me to go back, but I had to stay here to wait for her because Elder Ji came. But now that she's gone, Tan Xiu's expression moved as he nodded and said, "Then arrange the work here and go back to Jingmen Island. You've gotten a lot of good things these days, haven't you? Take them all with you. Ji Qimei should give you the corresponding cultivation resources." Understood. Qi Nan was happy inwardly and quickly replied. Shortly after, Tan Xiu left the Everlasting Feast Hall and returned to the Blue Star Villa complex. Due to the many days of hard work, he was finally able to relax and breathe a sigh of relief. However, he recalled that he had yet to return to Star City, and had yet to go to the magnificent Tang Corporation to hold a celebration party for the top executives. Thus, he secretly decided to return to Star City tomorrow after resting for a night. Early the next morning, while Tanxio was still asleep, his cell phone rang. To his surprise, the caller turned out to be Yuan Chuling, whom he hadn't contacted for a long time. "Where are you, eldest brother?" Yuan Chuling called out from the other end of the phone. "I'm in Shanghai," Tanxio said with a smile. "Where are you?" "Of course I know you're in Shanghai," said Yuan Chuling aloud. "What I mean is that today's military training has ended. I heard that the first batch of students from Shanghai University has already boarded the bus and are on the way back to the campus. Our military training was completed a day earlier than yours, so we have 3 days of vacation. Where are you now?" "I'll come to you. I'm at the Blue Star Villa complex," said Tanxio. "How come you're at the Blue Star Villa complex?" Yuan Chuling was surprised. "I heard that the villa complex is very good. I have a classmate who lives there." "Cut the crap and come here quickly," Tanxio said with a smile. "Tell the security guards to look for me when you arrive at the gate." "All right, I'll wait for you." As he hung up the phone, Tanxio looked at the time and found that it was only 6:30 in the morning. Since he wasn't sleepy at all, he got up and put on his clothes. After washing up, he strolled outside the villa complex and found a breakfast shop to have breakfast. As he was strolling back, Yuan Chuling called him again. "I'm here, eldest brother." Tanxio was far away from the villa complex's gate. He saw the chubby Yuan Chuling holding his mobile and gesturing to the 2 security guards. "I'm behind you. Give me a minute." After hanging up the phone, Tanxio saw Yuan Chuling turn his head and immediately waved at him. When he came to the front of Yuan Chuling, he looked at his plump belly and grinned. "Hey kid, how come you're fatter than when you were in high school? Didn't you say that the military training is very hard?" "The military training is indeed very hard, but the food is also good." Yuan Chuling chuckled. "I don't know why, but my appetite has grown recently. Anyways, let's not talk about this. How come you're here, eldest brother?" "I live here." Tanxio pointed inside and said with a smile. "You bought a villa here?" Yuan Chuling was surprised. "It's a gift from my family," Tanxio said with a smile. "Let's go. Come inside with me. I'm going back to Star City." Yuan Chuling followed Tanxio. After entering the villa complex, he curiously asked, "Eldest brother, why are you going back to Star City? Also, you said it's a gift from your family? Who would be so generous?" "Hey, can you not be so curious?" Tanxio said with a smile. "Anyways, you've been in Shanghai for a long time, but why didn't you contact me? Did you pick up some chicks? Did you lose your humanity after having the opposite sex? Did you send someone to investigate me, eldest brother?" Yuan Chuling was surprised. "How did you know that I've picked up some chicks?" Tanxio was rendered speechless. He didn't expect that this big fatty, Yuan Chuling, would really pick up some chicks. The reason why he said that was entirely due to the influence of Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong. After arriving at the villa, Yuan Chuling toured around and then ran back to the living room on the first floor. He looked at Tanxio, who was sitting on the sofa and smoking, and praised, "Eldest brother, this place of yours is really good. I've decided to rent a room with some chicks later. Just remember to save a room for me." "Get lost," Tanxio scolded with a smile. "You're just a rich second-generation kid. If you want a house, go find your father." Yuan Chuling sat in front of Tanxio and said with a smile, "Eldest brother, I found that you've changed. You've become stingy. That won't do. You'll pay for my flight ticket back to Star City today to make up for my wounded heart." "You're also going back to Star City?" Tanxio couldn't help laughing and asked. "Hee." Yuan Chuling chuckled and said, "Actually, I came to find you today for some serious business. I've received an order from my family's patriarch to invite you back. He said that there's something he wants to talk to you about." "What does your father want to talk to me about?" Tanxio was confused. Yuan Chuling shrugged his shoulders and shook his head. "You ask me, but who am I supposed to ask?" He doesn't want me to meddle in his family's business. Apart from giving me money every time, he still gives me money. On the contrary, he called me several times recently and asked about you every time. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he nodded and said, "Then let's go back now. It just so happens that I have something to do back to Star City." Don't worry. Yuan Chuling waved and said, "I still have something to talk to you about." "What is it?" asked Tan Xiu. "Eldest brother," Yuan Chuling chuckled and said, "The reason why I'm looking for you this time, aside from the matter my dad told me to do, is that I want to partner with you in business. As for me, I do have a lot of money in my hands, but I've taken a fancy to a project and I want to start it with a bang. So hee. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said, "Do I look like a rich man to you? Besides, we're still studying now. What kind of business do you want to do? Do you have time to take care of it later?" The smile on Yuan Chuling's face disappeared as he seriously said, "Eldest brother, you're definitely a rich man. At least a few thousand times richer than me. Listen to my plan first. If you think it's feasible, then you can invest and do it with me. If not, then I'll think about it again." "Then tell me, what kind of business do you want to do?" Tan Xiu said. Yuan Chuling asked, "Boss, after I arrived in Shanghai, I spent a lot of time drinking and having fun for a few days. Then I accidentally discovered something. Nowadays, the pace of life in the metropolis is very fast. Many salarymen open their eyes to go to work every day, and after work, they go to the nightlife. Their sub-health condition is very serious. I want to open a large fitness center in Shanghai. Yesterday, I updated 5 chapters. This morning, I got up and saw that there were only 9 monthly tickets. I suddenly felt that the world is full of malice. Brothers and sisters, let's buy all kinds of tickets." Chapter 411. Fitness Center? Tang Xiu slightly furrowed his brows as a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. Yuan Chuling's idea was indeed good. If a fitness center in a big city was done well, it could indeed earn a lot of money. "Have you done any market research?" Yuan Chuling nodded seriously and said, "I've done some market research. For that market research report, I spent more than 10,000 yuan to hire 20 students from our university. They ran around for 3 days and got thousands of research reports for students, white-collar workers, self-employed people, and other groups of people. The report showed that 82% of the people were in a sub-healthy state. 12% of the people had a fitness card and often went to the fitness center to work out. 64% of the people had the intention to go to the gym to work out." Tan Xiu quietly listened to Yuan Chuling's words and silently nodded in his heart. However, he was not as optimistic as Yuan Chuling had imagined. If he wanted to rely on the fitness center to make money, he needed a lot of business elements. Actually, it's easy to open a fitness center. As long as you have money, you can rent a place and renovate it to a higher level. The fitness equipment is complete, and you can hire excellent fitness coaches. It's very easy to open a business. The key is management. After all, there must be a lot of fitness centers in a big city like Shanghai. How can you do it better than others and share more benefits from this big market?" Yuan Chuling grinned and said, "My business philosophy is very simple. It can even be considered violent. That is high-grade, low-threshold. In other fitness centers, fitness is sports and exercise. But what I want is different. I want to play. I want to play new tricks in fitness, so that people can have fun while working out." Tan Xiu was surprised and said, "Tell me about it." Yuan Chuling raised his hand and rubbed his chin. He laughed and said, "Boss, I may not be as good as you when it comes to learning and doing business. But when it comes to playing, you definitely won't be able to catch up to me. I'll give you a few examples. Nowadays, there are many shopping malls that have activities, right? And in the fitness center, we can also do activities. For example, we can set up bonuses and prizes for fitness competitions. In addition, a beautiful female coach is also a good choice. If it doesn't work, we can also find a sparring partner. Also, there are a lot of older single men and women in the metropolis. We can do blind dates. By promoting the interaction between members, we might be able to act as a matchmaker for many times. Another example would be to set up a club for members and set up a sports talent section. We can collaborate with some media to produce some television programs. As long as we are willing to spend money, we can become more and more famous and influential. Tan Xiu looked at Yuan Chuling, who spoke with confidence and composure, and saw him in a new light. Speaking of which, Yuan Chuling did have his strengths in this aspect. If he had enough tricks up his sleeves, he might really be able to make a name for himself. How much do you need? Upon hearing this, Yuan Chuling's eyes immediately lit up. He counted his fingers and said, I can take out 2 million yuan now. That's all I have. If you are willing to invest, I will immediately look for my dad and borrow a few million from him. If you can invest 5 million, I'm confident that I'll be able to do it well. You mean the total investment is about 10 million? Asked Tan Xiu. That's right, said Yuan Chuling with a nod. After thinking for a moment, Tan Xiu slowly said, I'll invest 15 million yuan, accounting for 60% of the shares. You'll invest 5 million yuan, accounting for 40% of the shares. After the fitness center is established, I'll be a hands-off manager and you'll be in charge of all the operations. As for me, I'll assign someone to the finance department to understand the financial situation of the fitness center after its establishment. How about it? Yuan Chuling slapped his thigh and nodded with a smile. No problem. Then it's a deal. Give me your bank account number. I'll transfer the money to you now, said Tan Xiu. So fast. Yuan Chuling stared at him and said with a surprised face, I've never liked to do things sloppily, said Tan Xiu with a smile. If you can build the fitness center well, I'll wait to make money. If you lose money, then so be it. Yuan Chuling gave a thumbs up and praised, You're really rich, big bro. All right, I'll give you the account number now. A few minutes later, Tan Xiu transferred the money to Yuan Chuling's account. Then he got up and said with a smile, Can we go now? We have to report to the campus tomorrow, and the class will officially start the day after tomorrow. Let's go back early so that we can come back early. Yuan Chuling jumped up with satisfaction. His muscles trembled as he grinned and said, Let's go home. Star City. At the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ. Inside the general manager's office. Kong Xia was quietly going through the documents. Her beautiful face sometimes frowned, and sometimes revealed a trace of a smile. On the sofa in the corner of the office, Andy was lazily playing with her mobile phone and yawning from time to time. Andy, take some time to keep an eye on the project in the new city. Although we can trust those forces who are cooperating with us, it's still a big project worth tens of billions of yuan. If there's a problem in the financial aspect, it will bring us great losses. Kong Xia looked up and glanced at Andy, who was playing with her mobile phone on the sofa. Don't worry, boss. Andy replied without raising her head. Kong Xia shook her head. After putting down the documents, she asked with a smile, Andy, why are you always so listless recently? I heard that the little boss of the Sameo group is crazy in pursuing you. How about it? Did you agree with him? Andy pursed her lips and snorted. Chen Sithan is indeed a bit talented and good-looking, boss. But in my opinion, no one is better than our boss. If he wants me to be his girlfriend, I think he'll have to go back to the furnace and cultivate for several decades. Yeah, no one is better than our boss, said Kong Xia without hesitation. However, we only have one boss. I will definitely make him kneel down before me. So don't even think about it. Andy got up and said with arms akimbo, Boss, you may be my immediate superior, but you can't be my master when it comes to love. God made me fancy boss, so he'll definitely be mine. If you want to PK with me, then I'll have a good contest with you. Puffed Kong Xia couldn't help but burst into laughter. I'm serious, boss, said Andy with a disgruntled expression. Our boss is the best among men, and he'll never only have one woman. Didn't your country have an emperor system? That emperor can have 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. I think our boss can do the same. As for me, I don't want to be the empress. Just give me an imperial concubine to play with and I'll be satisfied. Imperial concubine my ass. Kong Xia scolded with a smile. Don't talk nonsense with me. Ring ring ring. Kang Xia's words were interrupted by her mobile phone's ringtone. Andy spat out her pink tongue at Kang Xia, and then lazily lied on the sofa, continuing to fiddle with her mobile phone. Kang Xia grabbed her mobile and looked at the caller ID. Her eyes suddenly lit up as she got up and answered. Boss, are you looking for me? Kang Xia, I'll be back in Star City around noon. You arrange it, and we'll have a celebration banquet at the Long's dining hall in the evening. Tan Xiu's voice came out of the phone. Kang Xia was pleasantly surprised. Boss, you'll be back at noon? That's great. I'll immediately order it. That's right. What time is your flight? Do you want me to pick you up at the airport? No need to pick me up, said Tan Xiu with a smile. I'll go back to Southgate Town first. I'll go to the company to find you in the afternoon. All right. Kang Xia replied with a smile. After hanging up the phone, Kang Xia raised her head with a smile on her face. But what she didn't expect was that Andy had already arrived at her desk, standing on her tiptoes and staring at her with her big watery eyes. Andy, what are you doing? Asked Kang Xia with a smile. Andy blinked and asked, Is it boss's phone call? Has boss come back? Will I be able to see him? Kang Xia nodded and said, That's right. Boss told me on the phone that he'll come back personally to hold a celebration banquet for us. He wants us to go to the Long's dining hall to arrange it. How about it? Do you want to show off in front of boss? With a happy expression on her face, Andy curiously asked how. I'll leave tonight's celebration banquet to you, Kang Xia said with a smile. If you do well, boss will definitely look at you differently. Andy immediately raised her hand and called out, I promise I'll make boss satisfied. Boss, I'm going to get busy. Go, said Kang Xia with a smile. At Southgate Town, inside the Wang Villa, Su Lingyun was drowsily dozing off, while Tang Yunda was reading a stack of documents in his hand with his brows constantly furrowed. Even though it was almost October, the weather was still a bit hot and humid. Dense beads of sweat even appeared on Tang Yunda's forehead. Dad. After Tan Xiu's figure appeared in front of Tang Yunda, he called out in a low voice. Tang Yunda stared blankly for a moment. Only now did he realize that his son had come back. Just as he was about to stand up and speak, he saw Tan Xiu make a silent gesture to him. Study room. Tang Yunda faintly smiled and left the living room with Tan Xiu. Inside the study room, after Tang Yunda and Tan Xiu took a seat, Tang Yunda asked with a smile, Why are you back? What happened last time when you left in a hurry? I'll tell you about my disciple later, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Anyways, why didn't my mom go to the restaurant today? She just came back not long ago, said Tang Yunda with a smile. How is it? Tan Xiu asked with a smile. You haven't lived with mom for 20 years. Have you gotten used to it? Tang Yunda grinned and said, To be honest, I'm not used to it at first. But I found that your mom has simply turned into a strong woman. She's busy with the restaurant every day. I told her to rest more, but she doesn't listen. If you have time, talk to your mom about it. She's working so hard, and the restaurant can't earn much money. That's because you don't understand my mom's mind, said Tan Xiu with a smile. She used to live a hard life, so she can bear hardships and endure hardships. She won't feel at ease if there's nothing going on in her hands. If she wants to toss and turn, just let her toss and turn. It doesn't matter to our family how much money we make, as long as she's happy. Chapter 412. A guilty look flashed in Tang Yunda's eyes as he nodded and said, I understand that you and your mother have suffered a lot over the years. Even if the days are getting better and better, her heart is still restless. She's afraid that if she doesn't save more money now, she'll have to suffer again in the future. Tan Xiu nodded and suddenly said, Dad, have you considered the matter we talked about last time? Are you ready to do something? I've been investigating several projects recently, but I haven't decided yet, said Tang Yunda. What projects? Tan Xiu was surprised. One of them is the hotel business, said Tang Yunda. Shuangqing province's economic level is getting higher and higher, and the transportation with other provinces in the country is getting more and more convenient. I found that the hotel business can still be done. However, it's a bit difficult to make it big. Another one is the real estate business. Although there are a lot of real estate companies in the country now, the housing problem is still a top priority with the increase of the population. Another one is the logistics business. Online shopping is very popular now, and the logistics industry is very profitable. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment and suddenly said, Dad, I think the hotel business can be done. But I don't think setting up a hotel in Shuangqing province is necessarily a big investment, and the business may not be good. You might as well look further and focus on those cities with extremely developed tourism. For example, coastal cities. Tang Yunda's eyes lit up. He immediately patted his thigh and said, Son, you're right. People's living standards are improving now, and the tourism industry is booming. The business will definitely be good if we set up a hotel near those scenic spots. What about the other two? What do you think? I think we should forget about the real estate business, said Tan Xiao. There are construction companies all over the country, be it big cities or small places. Many of them are very strong, so it won't be easy to snatch their business. As for the logistics industry, we can do it. But I need to know how big you want to do it. I can come up with 2 billion yuan, said Tang Yunda. Tan Xiao thought for a moment and said with a smile, Let's put the hotel business aside first and invest in the logistics business first. There are only a few of the biggest logistics companies in the country. If you can set up a large logistics company and open up all the logistics lines in the country, I'm afraid you can make a big profit. What do you think about cooperating with others? Asked Tang Yunda. Tan Xiao asked, with whom? Inject capital into a large logistics company and become a shareholder, said Tang Yunda. Tan Xiao thought for a moment before shaking his head and said, I don't think it's appropriate. Those large logistics companies already had complete logistics channels and had a great reputation. At this time, even if they had money, it would not be easy to intervene. I feel that we can acquire a small logistics company and inject a large amount of funds into it. We can start to expand more logistics routes and spread the transportation network all over the country. On the one hand, it was necessary to ensure the safety of logistics, and on the other hand, it was necessary to ensure the speed of logistics. By the way, I bought a few planes. If you really want to do logistics business, I'll give them to you after the reconstruction of Nine Dragons Island is completed. Really? Tang Yunda's eyes lit up, and he was pleasantly surprised. Tan Xiao smiled and said, How could this be fake? That's a good idea. Tang Yunda praised. I've learned about the situation of other large logistics companies in the country. They also have transport planes, but the number is very small. As long as you throw money and go all out, any business can be done, said Tan Xiao. Although I still have some money in my hands, I also have a lot of places to use money, so I can't help you. I know you have money, but how can I use your money to do business? Tang Yunda said with a smile. However, can you get me a batch of God's nectar from the magnificent Tang Corporation? You can talk to Kong Xia about this matter. She can refuse anyone, but she won't refuse you, said Tan Xiao. All right, I still have something to do, so I can't accompany you anymore. Didn't you just come back? Tang Yunda was confused. You're leaving again? Where are you going this time? My high school classmate's father said that he has something to talk to me about, so I'm going to see him, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Are you coming back for dinner tonight? Tang Yunda asked with a smile. I have something to do tonight, so I won't be coming back. Tan Xiao shook his head. Even if Yuan Zhengxian wants to invite me to dinner, I don't have time today. Yuan Zhengxian. Tang Yunda stared blankly for a moment. A surprised look appeared on his face as he asked, Son, your classmate's father is called Yuan Zhengxian? The owner of the Yuan Group? Yeah. Tan Xiao nodded. Do you know him? I've met him a few times. Tang Yunda nodded. He's like me. We both came out from the army. I also heard about this, said Tan Xiao. His current business has a deep connection with the army. However, he said a few months ago that he wants to find another way to do business. I don't know if this matter is related to him looking for me this time. All right, you go then. Tang Yunda nodded. Quickly. Then, Tan Xiao left Southgate Town. He didn't greet his mother since she hadn't woken up yet. After driving his Land Rover SUV to the Yuan family's villa, Yuan Zhengxian and Zhao Jing were very enthusiastic. They personally welcomed Tan Xiao to the study room. Yuan Zhengxian then said with a smile, Tan Xiao, your magnificent Tang Corporation is getting more and more prosperous. You're making a lot of money every day. I don't know much about the company's business, said Tan Xiao modestly. Kong Xia usually manages it, and my main task is still to study. Yuan Zhengxian enviously said. Tan Xiao, you're really lucky to have such a great general like Kong Xia working for you. If I had such a powerful person under my command, I wouldn't have such a headache now. Uncle Yuan, is there something you want to talk to me about? Asked Tan Xiao. Yuan Zhengxian nodded and said, You also know that I've been thinking about changing the business a while ago. Recently, I've withdrawn a lot of funds, and because of my relationship with you, I got some investment in the new city project. However, I still have a lot of money in hand, so I want to ask you if there's any business worth investing in? Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, Uncle Yuan, you're definitely a capable person since you can fight for such a business with your bare hands. You asked me about investment, but it's really hard for me to answer. Besides, you're not the first person to ask me about investment today. Yuan Zhengxian stared blankly and said with astonishment, There's someone else? Who is it? My dad, Tan Xiao said with a smile. Your dad? Yuan Zhengxian was confused. As far as I know, you seem to have grown up with your mother. I've never heard of him. I did grow up with my mother due to some special reasons, said Tan Xiao. But my dad came back recently, so I want to do some business. That's right, I mentioned you when I was chatting with my dad. He said that you two have met a few times before. Your dad is? Yuan Zhengxian was surprised. Tang Yunda, said Tan Xiao. Tang Yunda? Yuan Zhengxian faintly felt that the name was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. When he looked up at Tan Xiao's face, his mind suddenly lit up. Tan Xiao's appearance reminded him of a person. Because of this, he suddenly got up. Disbelief flashed in his eyes as he hurriedly asked, Your dad is called Tang Yunda? The former soldier king in the army? The one from the Tang family in the imperial capital? That's right. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Yuan Zhengshuan's lips squirmed a few times. With an excited expression on his face, he murmured, Brother Tang is still alive? I can't forget his heroic spirit when we met more than 20 years ago. Tan Xiao, where's your dad now? Can I see him? Can I have a few drinks with him? He's in Southgate Town. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Uncle Yuan, you can go there directly if you want to see him. Yuan Zhengxian heavily nodded and said, Tonight. I'll visit him tonight. Tan Xiao, you don't know that your dad used to be the pride of our soldiers. He's an existence that countless soldiers and soldiers look up to. If it weren't for that incident, I dare say that he would have become a general and become a big shot in the army. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and didn't answer. Yuan Zhengxian sighed again. I never expected it. It's really unexpected. You're actually his son. No wonder you have such great ability at such a young age. Like father, like son. It's really like father, like son. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, Uncle Yuan, let's not talk about this topic. If you want to ask me about investment issues, I really can't help you. Yuan Zhengshuan's eyes lit up as he shook his head and said, You can. I firmly believe that you can. Why do you say that? Tan Xiao was stunned. Didn't you just say it? Yuan Zhengxian said with a smile. Your dad also wants to do business and so do I. If the two of us cooperate, I won't interfere whether you cooperate or not, Tan Xiao said with a smile. If you have any issues, you can discuss it. Don't involve me. But Yuan Chuling must have told you that he wants to open a fitness center in Shanghai, right? You're his father, so will you support him? Even you can support him, so how can I not? Yuan Zhengxian said with a smile. Yuling has already told me everything that you've said to me. I've also made the decision to give him 10 million yuan and let him do it. I'll support him as long as he can learn some skills, even if he has to spend all his capital in the end. Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and praised. Uncle Yuan, you just said like father, like son. It can also be applied to you and your father. Don't worry. I'll help look after the fitness center. There won't be any problems as long as he doesn't cause trouble. All right. Yuan Zhengxian was actually waiting for Tan Xiao to say this. He nodded with satisfaction after hearing it. Sorry, I got something to do today, so the update is late. Chapter 413. Tan Xiao left the Yuan family's villa and drove to the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ. On the way, he received a call from Ban's Ho. What made him smile wryly was that Ban's Ho had been waiting for him in Shanghai for several days. After seeing that he was busy, he directly returned to Star City. Only today did Ban's Ho contact him again, after he had finished his work. New Garden. It was once a tourist attraction in the suburbs of Star City, but it had now become a deserted area. After Tan Xiao drove to the place, he saw Ban's Ho squatting on a stone block and smoking at the entrance of the new garden, which was overgrown with weeds. Boss, you finally come. Upon seeing Tan Xiao get off the car, Ban's Ho immediately trotted to Tan Xiao's front and said, You told me on the phone that you've settled those street children here? Asked Tan Xiao. Yes, Ban's Ho said. Although this place is a bit dilapidated, some of the houses inside are intact. Dingzi and I bought some daily necessities, and also invited some aunties to take care of those children here. So this place is a good place. Let's go. Take me to have a look, said Tan Xiao. 10 minutes later, Ban's Ho and Tan Xiao came to the front of a dilapidated house inside the new garden. The first thing that entered Tan Xiao's eyes was dozens of children gathered in groups of 3 to 5, surrounding several middle-aged women and laughing. The oldest of these children looked 8 or 9 years old, whereas the youngest one was a baby in the arms of a middle-aged woman. Boss, there are a total of 45 of them. All of them are street children we've found. They didn't have enough to eat, warm clothes, and didn't even have a fixed place to stay. We bought these children food and new clothes, and promised to provide them with a place to live. We're willing to adopt them and let them have a home in the future. So they followed us here. Ban's Ho used to look like a hooligan, but at this moment, he seemed to have changed into a different person. There was a complicated look in his eyes, and his words and actions were particularly serious. Tan Xiao patted his shoulder and said, You've done a good job. Ban's Ho forced a smile and said, Boss, actually, the number of street children we found is far more than these. Many of them are disabled. But boss, you said that we must find healthy children. So we sent those disabled children to some orphanages and gave them some money. Ban's Ho, you've become more mature than before. Tan Xiao said. Ban's Ho, I see. Ban's Ho said. I suddenly felt that the task you gave me is very honorable and has touched my heart. Being able to do something is much better than fooling around like a fool. You're right. Tan Xiao nodded and said. The task I'm giving you is also a career. At the latest, I'll send someone over tonight to take these children away. You can continue to look for street children. You don't have to worry about the money. I will transfer you 5 million later. If you have any trouble looking for street children in the future, you can contact me immediately. Ban's Ho hesitated. Boss, where are you taking them? Tan Xiao lightly said. You don't need to care where I'm taking him. In short, you can rest assured that I will treat them well and give them a different future. Ban's Ho nodded and said, Boss, how about I take you to meet these kids? All right. Tan Xiao nodded. Ban's Ho came near the children, clapped his hands and loudly said, Children, everyone line up according to the formation I taught you before. Aunties, you can go and rest first. I'll call you if there's anything. The middle-aged women hesitated for a moment, but after handing the baby to Nail, who was rushing over, they nodded and left silently. Tan Xiao looked at the children. After running around noisily, they quickly stood in 3 rows. Moreover, they all looked at him with curious expressions. Tan Xiao walked a few steps forward and said in a deep voice, Remember my appearance. I'm your boss from now on. From today on, I'll provide you with food to eat and clothes to wear. I'll let you live in a big house, and I'll also let you study and study. Remember, you didn't have a home before, but I'll give you a home in the future. A home where you can grow up slowly without worrying about food and clothing. The 45 children all quietly looked at Tan Xiao. No one spoke, nor did they move at will. They seemed to understand Tan Xiao's words, but they understood one thing. Tan Xiao was willing to adopt them and give them a home. Tan Xiao took out his mobile phone and dialed Kong Xia's number. Then he said, "Prepare a bus and come to the new garden. I'll send the specific address to your mobile phone." "All right," Kong Xia replied. Tan Xiao hung up the phone and gestured to Ban's Ho. As the two of them walked more than 10 meters away, Tan Xiao then said, "If you find any more street children later, send them directly to the place I live in Shanghai. I'll send you the address, but you must remember to test every child you send there. Their temperament is absolutely not bad." "I know, boss." Ban's Ho nodded. "Of these 45 children, except for the 3 under 4 years old, we have tested all the other children. They are very sensible and obedient. We even found that these children are much more mature than their peers despite their young age. It's said that children from poor families take charge of their families early." Tan Xiao sighed. "In fact, they grow up faster than children from poor families due to their hard lives. For these children, only after experiencing a miserable life can they know how to cherish their happy days. Do your best. What you're doing is redemption and doing good." "Boss, we're just doing the task you gave us. It's you who gave them a new life." Ban's Ho smiled. "You're the real philanthropist. Take them to pack their things." Tan Xiao faintly smiled. "I'm sure a car will come to pick them up soon. I'm a bit reluctant to part with them, boss." Ban's Ho forced a smile. "They will remember you in the future." Tan Xiao chuckled. "If you do well and satisfy me, you'll have the chance to see them again in the future." "All right." Ban's Ho nodded heavily, and then strode toward the children. Tan Xiao stood at the same spot, and watched Ban Xiao's back. He secretly sighed inwardly. Life was really like a whetstone, grinding away the edges and corners of Ban's Ho and Dingzi, grinding away their rascally childishness. Now they were growing and maturing at an extremely fast speed. Tan Xiao even thought that if Ban's Ho and Dingzi had good abilities and were loyal to him in a few years, he could cultivate them further. More than an hour later, a bus was parked at the entrance of the new garden. As the door opened, Kong Xia, along with 2 senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation, quickly came to greet Tan Xiao. "We've arrived, boss." Kong Xia didn't show any intimacy toward Tan Xiao in front of outsiders, and spoke with a respectful look on her beautiful face. Tan Xiao nodded and took out his mobile phone to call Ban's Ho. Quickly, Ban's Ho, Dingzi, and a dozen others walked out of the new garden's gate with 45 children. "Let them get on the bus." Kong Xia and the 2 senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corp looked perplexed. "Boss, these children are..." Kong Xia was even more confused. "They're the homeless children I adopted," Tan Xiao said lightly. "I'm going to settle them in a new place. Let's go. We'll talk slowly on the way." "All right." Kong Xia nodded. Under Kong Xia's arrangement, the 2 senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation took the children to board the bus. At the bottom of the pit, they sat in the Land Rover SUV driven by Tan Xiao. As the 2 cars started, Tan Xiao spoke while driving. "Are those 2 senior executives of the company who came with you trustworthy?" "They are the new employees I recruited when the magnificent Tang Corporation was just established." Kong Xia nodded. "Their previous jobs were very bad, and their lives were not particularly rich. It can be said that the magnificent Tang Corporation has changed their lives, so they have a strong sense of belonging and responsibility toward our company. Then let them send these children to Jingmen Island's Everlasting Feast Hall." Tan Xiao nodded. "I've contacted the Everlasting Feast Hall's people, and we'll pick them up midway." "Boss, you haven't told me why you adopted so many homeless children," asked Kong Xia curiously. "To train them," Tan Xiao said indifferently. "If you want to train talents, you don't need to find such young children, no?" Kong Xia said. "I'm afraid it will take at least a decade to train them into talents, no? The most important thing for me to train the talents is their loyalty," Tan Xiao said. Only by seizing the idea of loyalty from the children, deeply imprinting it in their minds, engraving it in their hearts, can they become my capable assistants. It may take a lot of time and money to train them, but I believe they won't let me down in the future." Upon hearing Tan Xiao's words, Kong Xia's heart suddenly trembled. It was a kind of shock, a kind of timidity, and an inconceivable fusion of emotions. Suddenly, She recalled the people of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Tanxiu once said that the people of the Everlasting Feast Hall were truly his people and could be trusted. At this time, she was secretly speculating whether those people in the Everlasting Feast Hall were also like these children, having been trained since they were very young. If so, the existence of the Everlasting Feast Hall was too terrifying. Call those two, Tanxiu said. Let them escort these children directly to Jingmen Island. As for the bus driver, give him some benefits after this trip. Upon hearing it, Wuxia immediately told the two men according to Tanxiu's order. Afterward, she put away her mobile and asked, Boss, where are we going next? Give me their contact information. I'll send it to the people of the Everlasting Feast Hall, Tanxiu said with a smile. Then we'll go directly to the company and prepare for the evening banquet. Boss, you're going to attend the banquet in this dress. A charming smile immediately appeared on Wuxia's face when she heard about the banquet tonight. Chapter 414. Star City Fortune Square. A forced smile hung on Tanxiu's face as he was pulled by Wuxia into the Fortune Square's entrance. Under the strange eyes of the security guards and the passing guests, they came to the 4th floor. Wuxia, I really think this outfit is very good. It's just a banquet tonight, so there's no need to go through so much trouble, right? Tanxiu forced a smile. Wuxia said with a smile, Boss, tonight is the first time you appear in front of the company's top executives, so your overall image is very important. Didn't people say that? Clothes make the man, just as horses make the saddle. Although you're already very handsome, this outfit is too ordinary, and there's no way to make you shine. I'm not a big star, do I need to shine? Tanxiu said helplessly. Of course you need to shine and shock all the company's top executives. You're the company's big boss after all. If you don't pay attention to your image, those top executives will look down on you. I don't think you want to be despised by your men, right? This? Tanxiu opened his mouth and nodded with a forced smile. That's right. Wuxia said with a smile. So listen to me today. Let's buy clothes, shoes, neckties, and accessories first. Afterward, I'll take you to see someone. I guarantee that you'll be dressed up like a jade tree in the wind, shining brilliantly. Then wouldn't I become a charming vixen? Tanxiu muttered. Pfft. Wuxia couldn't help but burst into laughter. She covered her mouth and couldn't help laughing as she pulled Tanxiu and quickly entered a luxury clothing store. Shopping. It was a happy time for women, especially when they were accompanied by their beloved male companion. But for men, it was a bit of suffering, even if it was to buy things for themselves. Tanxiu was pulled by Wuxia to go to a clothing store. For 2 hours, Tanxiu tried at least 20 sets of clothes, but only 2 sets were bought. The price of those 2 sets of clothes made Tanxiu, who didn't care much about money, couldn't help but feel distressed. 6 digits. Both sets of clothes cost more than 6 digits. Although he felt like a different person after putting them on, and it was very comfortable, he still felt uncomfortable all over. It was as if he wasn't wearing clothes, but pieces of $100 bills. 5 o'clock. Tanxiu was led by Wuxia to a private club. From the entrance, one could see that this private club was extraordinary. The decoration style was full of high-end and fashionable. Welcome. Following the greeting of the 2 young ladies, Wuxia brought Tanxiu to a spacious hall inside. At this time, 2 middle-aged women dressed like noblewomen were sitting on a soft sofa, flipping through a fashion magazine. From time to time, they would gather together to chat. In front of them, a man wearing green pants, a red singlet, and a cap was fiddling with a set of clothes. Anthony, Wuxia called out. The man twisted his buttocks as he turned around and saw Wuxia. His eyes immediately lit up as he cheerfully greeted her, and said with a particularly sweet voice, You're a rare guest here, Wuxia darling. What's wrong with you today? How did he manage to recruit you to my place? Anthony, let me introduce you. This is my boss Tanxiu, said Wuxia with a smile. Boss, he's Anthony, the owner of this club. He's also the chief image designer. He's very amazing. Most of the noblewomen in Star City, or local tycoons, like to ask him to help with the image design. Even some big stars who come to Star City will ask him for help. Hello. Tan Xiao nodded. A glint flashed in Anthony's eyes as he sized up Tan Xiao several times. Then he heavily nodded and praised. You're a natural-born clothes rack with a handsome appearance. In my eyes he's like a piece of unpolished jade. Only after he's been remodeled will he be able to show the dazzling splendor of jade. Kong Xia darling, you've brought me a good material. Kong Xia snappily scolded. Anthony, are you courting death? He's my boss. What kind of material are you? If you dare to talk nonsense again, I'll tear your mouth. You're wrong, Anthony laughed and said. I was wrong, all right? The big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, a big shot who's rarely seen, can condescend to my small temple today. It really makes me excited. In order to win over this big client, I'll give you a 20% discount today. Kong Xia gave a thumbs up and praised. That's great. Then let's begin. Anthony faintly smiled and took the 2 sets of clothes, shoes, socks, and other things. Then he turned to Tan Xiao and said, Mr. Tang, please come with me. Tan Xiao slightly nodded and followed Anthony into the next room. On the sofa, the 2 middle-aged noblewomen who were sitting and reading fashion magazines only rolled their eyelids when they saw Kong Xia and Tan Xiao coming in, and then no longer paid attention to them. However, when Anthony said that Tan Xiao was the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, they were immediately startled. Heavens! I really didn't expect that the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss would turn out to be such a handsome young man. My husband has been nagging me about the magnificent Tang Corporation's name all day. He even laments that he has no chance to meet the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. Even until now, he still hasn't found out who the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss is. Yeah. Recently, my husband has been talking about the magnificent Tang Corporation and its mysterious big boss the most. That's right, there's also one more. He said that the magnificent Tang Corporation's CEO, Kong Xia. That woman is Kong Xia, right? I've seen a financial interview about her before. It seems that their relationship is not ordinary. Regardless of their relationship, we can see the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss today. No matter what, we must take a photo with him. I'm sure my husband will treat me differently after I take it home. Me too. Kong Xia walked to the bookshelf at the side and casually took out a fashion magazine. She then went to the opposite side of the 2 noblewomen and found that they were looking at her. She nodded to them with a smile and then lowered her head to read the magazine. Half an hour later, the door next door opened and Anthony came out. He immediately clapped his hands and woke Kong Xia up from reading the magazine. Anthony, where's my boss? Kong Xia put down the fashion magazine and asked Anthony. Anthony faintly smiled and was about to clap his hands to signal Tan Xiao to come out, but Tan Xiao's figure had already appeared in front of Kong Xia. Heavens! This is my boss. Kong Xia stared blankly for a moment. Then she quickly raised her arm and rubbed her eyes. After confirming that she wasn't seeing things, she immediately shouted, Boss, you're just a handsome young man. But now, you're definitely the best among men. You're the dream prince charming of countless women. On the sofa nearby, the 2 noblewomen also looked sluggish. They couldn't help but straighten their bodies and stared blankly at Tan Xiao, who seemed to have changed into another person. Their mouths gaped open. Handsome. Too handsome. They had seen a lot of handsome and manly men, but those who were more handsome and more manly than the one in front of them could be counted on one's fingers. At this moment, Tan Xiao was wearing a tuxedo with a tie and shiny leather shoes. His hair was combed, and he wore a valuable watch on his wrist. His every movement exuded an extraordinary temperament. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Tan Xiao looked down at his clothes and asked in astonishment. Kong Xia shook her head and murmured, No, it's just too dazzling. Boss, if you become a star, you'll definitely charm all the girls in the world. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, What kind of joke is this? If I had that ability, I would have become a sugar daddy of a rich woman long ago. I'll take care of you. As Tan Xiao's voice faded away, a noblewoman with shining eyes suddenly stood up and loudly said, Handsome, I'll take care of you with all my private money. Pfft. Ha ha ha. Kong Xia and Anthony couldn't help but burst into laughter. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at the noblewoman. He shook his head and said, "Big sis, you must be joking. I don't have the habit of being a sugar daddy." After saying that, he grabbed Kongxia's wrist and strode outside. Only when they were outside the door did he let go of Kongxia's wrist and snappily said, "You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Kongxia quickly raised her palm and smilingly said, "I swear to God that I didn't do it on purpose." "Ha! Boss, did you see the look in those two big sisters' eyes? What color was that?" "Green light." The way they looked at you was as if their eyes were shining with green light. Now you know how charming you are, right? "I don't know how charming I am, but it's really embarrassing to be threatened to be a sugar daddy," Tan Xiu snappily said. "Hurry up and leave. I'll find a place to change my clothes." Kongxia quickly pulled Tan Xiu and repeatedly shook her head, saying, Don't. It was hard for me to ask Anthony to design your image for you, boss. If you change your clothes, we'll have wasted half the afternoon." "That's right, I haven't paid Anthony yet. Please wait for a moment, boss." "Alright, I won't change my clothes, okay?" Tan Xiu forced a smile. "Let me go." Only then did Kongxia let go of Tang Xiu and ran toward the entrance with a smile on her face. Tan Xiu forced a smile and shook his head. He walked to the front of the car, took out a cigarette and lit it up, taking 2 deep puffs. Although he looked helpless on the surface, he was actually a bit happy inwardly. After all, he could even charm a middle-aged aunt, indicating that his appearance was not bad. Clothes make the man, just as the saddle makes the horse. That's a good saying. Tan Xiu flicked the clothes on his shoulder. Even if there was no dirt or mess, he still looked like a pretentious guy. A few minutes later, Kongxia came out with a smile and immediately rushed to say, "Boss, let me drive." "Drive if you want." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Where are we going next?" "Are we going directly to the Long's dining hall?" Kongxia said with a smile. "The celebration banquet is about to begin. Let's go straight there. I guarantee that you'll be the focus of the audience when you appear, boss." It's because Quiet Night has been busy with meetings recently. Then yesterday, the Winter Melon Goddess suddenly said that Quiet Night's fan club will be called Night Club. I was instantly dumbfounded. Brothers and sisters, do you think the name of this fan club is domineering? More importantly, will it be harmonized? Chapter 415. The Long's Dining Hall was one of the top high-end hotels in Star City. The guests it received every day were either rich or powerful bigwigs in Star City. The threshold was high, and the price was expensive, making it difficult for many wealthy people to come out to have a sumptuous meal. 7 p.m. A white Porsche was parked outside the entrance of the Long's Dining Hall. A dashing and handsome young man, dressed in a famous brand suit, was sitting quietly in front of the car. He was holding a blue enchantress rose in his hand, and there was also a large bouquet of delicate and beautiful roses inside the convertible. "Young Master Chen, can you move your car? There are a lot of guests tonight, and your car will affect the other guests if it's parked here." Several security guards looked at the young man with frowning faces. Among them, the security captain spoke with a helpless expression. Had it been someone else, they would have already driven the person away. But the one in front of them was the second young master of Blue City's Sameo Group. He was also the little boss of the Sameo Group's Star City branch. At the same time, his father also had the shares of the Long's Dining Hall. A smile hung on the corner of Chun Xian's mouth. He slowly took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up. After taking a deep puff, he threw the rest to the security captain and said with a smile, "Big Brother Chong, if it's something else, I'll definitely promise you. But tonight is very important to me, so you can just turn a blind eye and help me accomplish my good deed. As long as I can get my little angel tonight, I'll tell Chief Xiang to double your salary." The security captain's eyes lit up. A smile immediately appeared on his face as he nodded to Chun Si, and said with a smile, "Then we wish young Master Chen's dream to come true and get the bell." After saying that, he gestured to the other security guards who were smiling, and they stepped back and continued to do their job of guarding the place. Chun Si faintly smiled as he looked at the Long's Dining Hall's entrance. A bit of expectation was slowly growing in his eyes. Just as the cigarette between his fingers was about to burn out, A short girl with a childlike face and a cute angel-like ponytail came out from the inside. Behind the girl were two young and beautiful girls. Why is he here? The moment Andy came out of the Long's dining hall's entrance, she saw Chen Xian stepping on the cigarette, but in greeting her with a smiling face. Her delicate face slightly frowned with a displeased expression. Chen Xian came to Andy with the blue enchantress rose and magically took out a red heart-shaped box. Then he knelt in front of Andy and kneeled on one knee, trying to reveal a charming smile and affectionately said, "Andy, darling Andy, you rejected me 65 times before. But I believe that good things come in pairs. I hope you can promise and marry me for the 66th time. I, Chen Xian, promise you that in this life, I will only love you and only have you as my woman. Chen, and I promise you." He gently opened the lid of the red heart-shaped box. Immediately, under the illumination of the light, a diamond ring of at least 2 carats reflected a dreamy, dazzling brilliance. Andy took a step back and angrily said, "Chen Xian, are you done yet? I've said it before, I don't have any feelings for you, and you're not my Prince Charming. I won't marry you." "Why?" The smile on Chen Xian's face froze, but he still knelt on one knee and persistently asked, "Why do you always refuse me? You don't have feelings for me now, but I'm not afraid. I believe that I'll use practical actions to get your heart and love in the future." Andy was silent for a moment. A crafty glint suddenly flashed in her eyes. Her mouth curved into a smile and said, "You want to know why, right? Then I'll tell you. Because my mother, who has already gone to heaven, once appeared in my dream and told me that I must never marry an Asian man, especially a Chinese man." Excuse. It was an absolutely ridiculous excuse. Chen Xian's complexion turned a bit pale. Even the passers-by and security guards could tell that Andy was making up excuses. Andy is very interesting. On the roadside more than 10 meters away, Tan Xiao threw the car key to a security guard and looked at Kong Xia, who came to his side. Kong Xia covered her mouth and laughed. "This girl is making up excuses to refuse me. She doesn't even need to think about it. Even a fool can figure out such an excuse." "I think she deliberately let that handsome young man figure it out," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "Chen Xian is really persistent." Kong Xia chuckled and said, "From what I know, he has courted Andy dozens of times. She didn't refuse him every time, yet she's unyielding. What's that saying again and again? That's how he is. Isn't it written in the books?" Tan Xiao said with a smile. "You must be bold, thick-skinned, and indomitable in wooing a girl. Keep working hard and you'll get the beauty sooner or later." Kong Xia smiled and said, "Boss, I didn't expect that you also read romance novels. But I don't think Chen Xian has a chance. If Andy has even the slightest interest in him, she would have already agreed. You've been in contact with Andy a lot, so you should know her character. She's bold and dares to love and hate." Tan Xiao shrugged and chuckled. "Who can say for sure? Maybe his sincerity will eventually move Andy. What should we do? Is it the past? Or should we wait?" Kong Xia grabbed Tan Xiao's left wrist and looked at the world-famous watch Tan Xiao was wearing. After putting it down, she said, "There are only 20 minutes left before the celebration banquet begins. Let's go there now. Otherwise, the celebration banquet will be delayed." Tan Xiao nodded and walked over. At this moment, Andy looked at Chen Xian's frozen expression and felt very satisfied. She felt that she was a genius for being able to come up with such a wonderful reason to refuse someone. In order to prevent Chen Xian from giving up, she deliberately showed a delicate and pitiful look and said, "Chen Xian, young Master Chen, please let me go. There's an old saying in China that filial piety is the most important of all virtues. I'm very filial, even though I have no one to be filial to. But I can't marry you. Even if you ask me to marry you 666 times, I'll still refuse you." Chen Xian raised his wrist and bitterly said, "Andy, I really like you. I really love you. Can you not use such a ridiculous reason to refuse me? I can do anything for you. I'm willing to pay everything for you. Just promise me. I'll use the rest of my life to love and pamper you." "Andy." Kong Xia and Tan Xiao came to Andy's front. Andy looked up. When she glanced at Kong Xia, her eyes then fell on Tan Xiao. Her expression turned blank, and a bright light burst out from her eyes. Then, her mouth opened wide and her eyes revealed a look of disbelief. However, her expression changed very quickly. In just a blink of an eye, she turned into a love-struck fool. Tan Xiao said with a smile, "Don't stare blankly. He's sincerely proposing to you. If you like him, just say yes. Judging from his condition, he seems to be a good man." Andy gulped down her saliva and dashed to Tan Xiao's side. She grabbed Tan Xiao's hand and excitedly exclaimed, "Boss, you're so handsome today. You're like the Prince Charming in my dream." After saying that, she seemed to have thought of something. After releasing Tan Xiao's hand, Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry. She then strode back to Chen Xian and snatched the blue enchantress rose from his hand. She then returned to Tan Xiao's front, knelt on one knee, looked up and said, "Boss, I find myself in love with you. Please marry me. No, please accept me." A series of black lines appeared on Tan Xiao's forehead. Kang Xia was at a loss whether she had to laugh or cry as she looked at Andy and secretly shook her head. Chen Xian, who was kneeling on one knee in front, had his complexion greatly changed at this moment. He suddenly stood up and turned to look at Andy, who was kneeling on one knee and asking for his love. He angrily shouted, "Andy, what do you mean by this? That rose is my gift to you. How can you?" Andy turned around and said with a charming smile, "Young Master Chen, thank you for the rose. I'm offering it to Buddha with borrowed flowers. I hope I can get your blessing. Do you see it? He's the man I've been dreaming of. He's the handsome guy who makes my heart pound like a deer." After saying that, she looked at Tan Xiao again and said with a sweet smile, "Boss, please give me a chance. I really like you. I really love you. For you, I can do anything. For you, I'm willing to give everything. Promise me. I'll use the rest of my life to love you and spoil you." Tan Xiao was dumbfounded. He never dreamed that Andy would play this kind of game. It seemed that the handsome guy named Chen Si and had said these words. The surrounding crowd of onlookers revealed a strange expression. They didn't expect that the courtship scene would turn out to have such a dramatic change. Interesting. Young people nowadays are really having a good time. If that girl called Andy didn't do it on purpose to reject Chen Si, then I'm afraid she really likes that little handsome guy later. A man chasing a woman is separated by a mountain, and a woman chasing a man is separated by a layer of gauze. I don't know if the little handsome guy who came later will agree. Chen Xian has no chance. Chen Xian's expression became uglier and uglier as he listened to the surrounding people's discussion. He never dreamed that there would be such a thing. What's more, he didn't expect that Andy would disregard her pride and pursue another man. Moreover, it was when he was seriously proposing. Humiliation. It was like a flood or a ferocious beast had invaded his heart. At the same time, he felt a heart-wrenching pain. Andy, who is he? Chen Xian couldn't deny that the youth in front of him was indeed very handsome. Especially his attire and temperament, it made him a little jealous. However, no matter who the other party was, the person in front of him was definitely his biggest rival in love. If possible, he really wanted to kill this guy in front of him, so that he would never appear in front of Andy again. Congratulations to the three brothers Duani, Big Head, Little Wu, and Badworm for becoming the alliance leader of the immortal world. An alliance leader needs 5 chapters. Quiet Night is under a lot of pressure. After Quiet Night is busy with the election, I'll definitely work hard. Thank you for your love and support. _. Chapter 416. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at Andy kneeling on one knee in front of him. He then looked at Chen Xian, whose face was ashen and full of hostility. Little did he expect that this farce tonight would eventually lead to him. Helplessly shaking his head, he pulled Andy up and said, "Andy, don't mess around in public. Let's go inside. The banquet is about to begin." "All right." Andy didn't show the slightest disappointment even though she was really lost inside. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, she came to Kang Xia's side, grabbed her arm and chuckled. "Boss, did I do a good job just now? Not only did I reject the flies, but I also confessed my love to the one I like. Isn't that amazing?" You're just messing around. Kang Xia forced a smile. Be careful, or the boss will fire you. Andy spat out her pink tongue and giggled. I'm the boss's right-hand man, so he won't be willing to fire me. But you, boss, don't be jealous. Kang Xia rolled her eyes at her and walked forward in large strides. Chen Xian's expression turned even more unsightly. The flies that Andy mentioned made his heart burn with anger. Just as Tang Xiu's group was about to walk inside, he immediately chased after them and blocked their path. His eyes were filled with anger as he glared at Tang Xiu and shouted in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Tang Xiu's pace came to a halt as he looked at the furious Chen Xi, and then lightly said, "You don't need to know who I am. You just need to know that you shouldn't vent your anger out of shame on others after being rejected by them. Andy and I are just ordinary. Continue to pursue her if you have the ability. If you want to give up, it has nothing to do with me." Chen Xian's expression relaxed, but he still stubbornly said, "How can it have nothing to do with you? Didn't you see Andy's words and actions just now? I like her and even fell in love with her. She's destined to be my woman in this life. If you know what's good for you, you'd better stay far away from her. It's best if you don't appear in front of her for the rest of your life." Tan Xiu's face sank and he coldly snorted. "Dude, you've gone too far by saying that. Whether you can successfully pursue her or not is your own business. You have no right to interfere in other people's lives, nor do you have the right to restrict how others interact with each other." Chen Xian said angrily, "So what if I care? What can you do?" Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and a chilling light flashed in his eyes, but he still coldly said, "You're Chen Xian, right? Just now, I thought that you were a good young man. If you could catch up to Andy, you could be considered half one of us in the future. But now my perception of you has greatly changed. Get out of my sight before I get angry." Chen Xian clenched his fists tightly. His domineering side was on full display. "Arrogant, you're really arrogant. You are the first person to be so arrogant in front of me. Kid, no matter who you are, if you dare to appear in front of Andy again, I'll make you suffer." Hopeless. Tan Xiu shook his head. He then looked at Andy and asked, "How's the practice of the skill I taught you?" Andy angrily glared at Chen Xian. She then looked at Tan Xiu and looked like a child who had done something wrong. She lowered her head and said, "My strength has increased a lot, and my speed is also much faster. It seems that I've succeeded." Tan Xiu had just noticed that Andy's physical condition was much stronger than before, so he asked about it. After getting the result he wanted, he indifferently said, "You're the one who caused this trouble, so solve it yourself. I don't want to see this guy here for the next 2 minutes." "Got it," Andy replied. She looked up at Chen Xian and angrily said, "Did you hear that? My boss doesn't want to see you again. Get out of here." Chen Xian hurriedly said, "Andy, I'm sincere. Please don't be like this, okay? My Chen family is a big family. You'll definitely be able to live a life of luxury if you follow me in the future. Besides, I was indeed blinded by anger just now. But now I know his identity. You called him boss, so he must be the Magnificent Tang Corporation's boss, right? Don't worry. My Chen family is dozens of times stronger than the Magnificent Tang Corporation. You'll be the daughter-in-law of the Chen family if you marry me. Even if you don't do anything when the time comes, it'll still be 10,000 times better than working in the Magnificent Tang Corporation." Bam! A small pink fist fiercely hit Chen Xian's eyes. Chen Xian staggered and nearly fell to the ground. The moment Andy's feet landed on the ground, she angrily shouted, "Chen Xian, you're not allowed to slander my Magnificent Tang Corporation. Who the hell do you think your Chen family is? My boss can easily set up a company more powerful than your Sameo group if he wants to. Get the hell out of here. There's only 1 minute left." Chen Xian covered his eyes and looked at the furious Andy in disbelief. All this time, Andy was like an angel in his heart, pure and flawless, spotless and untainted. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that one day she would punch him in front of the public for the sake of defending another man's company. His anger stemmed from the flames of jealousy. He glared at Andy and clenched his fists. If it wasn't for the fact that Andy was a woman, he would have already beaten her. Suddenly, he recalled something and turned to look at Tan Xiu. He immediately raised his fist and dashed toward Tan Xiu. trying to turn his anger into force to deal with Tan Xiao. Andy's expression changed, becoming even more unsightly. Her speed was very fast, and after quickly blocking Chen Xian, her small body suddenly jumped up, and in the turbulent trembling of her breasts, her fist once again smashed into Chen Xian's face. This time, she used a lot of strength, directly smashing Chen Xian back and causing him to fall. Hiss, more and more guests gathered around to watch. Many people who came later asked about the whole story and felt some sympathy and pity for Chen Xian. However, what happened next made many people look down on Chen Xian. Because his confession had failed, he had lost his composure and vented his anger on Andy. After all, Andy had been polite at first and had even said that she and the girl named Andy were just friends, but he still refused to let it go. When everyone saw Andy's angry attack, they all shook their heads and secretly lamented that Chen Xian had reaped what he sowed. He had insisted on embarrassing himself. However, when Andy attacked for the second time, jumping up and punching Chen Xian into the ground, everyone couldn't help but gasp. They were secretly shocked by Andy's speed and strength. However, just as they were about to recover from their shock, something even more unexpected happened. Andy rushed in front of Chen Xian and punched and kicked him on the ground. Moreover, it seemed that Andy had used a lot of strength. Chen Xian kept screaming and wailing. She had a beautiful face. Her petite body. She was just like a pure angel. And it was this little angel, who was so adorable that everyone couldn't help but like her, who actually displayed an unbelievable act of violence. Was it a violent angel? Tan Xiao sighed inwardly. Although he felt that Chen Xian was a bit pitiful people must be hateful. He wouldn't be angry if Chen Xian didn't vent his anger on him. However, Andy was, after all, an employee of the magnificent Tang Corporation. Beating Chen Xian and in public was a disgrace to her identity. Therefore he lightly coughed and called out, "Andy, stop." After Andy stopped, the anger on her face vanished in an instant. She behaved like a good girl and came to Tan Xiao's front, calling out in a low voice, "Boss." Tan Xiao shook his head and glanced at Chen Xian, who was hugging his belly and curling up on the ground like a shrimp. Then he calmly said, "Forget it. He likes you after all. Liking someone is not wrong. Let's go. Our company's banquet is about to begin. Don't delay it because of this trivial matter." And, seeing that Tan Xiao didn't blame her, Andy quickly trotted to Kong Xia's side and pulled her arm again. At the moment, Kong Xia's expression was a bit strange. Seeing that Tan Xiao turned around and walked inside, she hesitated for a moment. After entering the Long's dining hall's entrance, she then asked in a low voice, "Andy, your cultivation situation. Have you cultivated true essence?" Andy giggled and said, "Boss, I cultivated it some time ago." Andy giggled and said, "But I couldn't tell you because you went to Shanghai at that time. After we came back, we were all too busy, so I forgot about it. Now not only can I sense the qi flow in my body, but I can also control it. Then I'll circulate the cultivation technique boss taught us to absorb some spiritual qi and strengthen my true essence." Kong Xia secretly gulped down and asked in a low voice, "Is your strength and speed really more powerful than before?" Andy nodded and said, "It's at least several times more powerful than before. Else do you think I can beat that big and tall Chen Xian? I really envy you." Kong Xia forced a smile and said, "I haven't felt the qi flow since I started cultivating. You can actually control it, and even strengthen your true essence." Andy giggled and said, "That's because you're usually too busy and rarely cultivate, boss, right? I think it's actually not difficult to cultivate at all. I cultivate for 2 hours every night and 2 hours in the morning. If I have nothing to do during the day, I'll cultivate for a while and naturally succeed." Kong Xia stared blankly and shook her head with a wry smile. She was indeed as Andy said. She was often so busy that she didn't even have time to eat. How could she have time to cultivate? When she was more diligent, she could only continuously cultivate for a week at most, and only cultivate for 1 or 2 hours a day. She had secretly made up her mind that she must cultivate diligently in the future. After all, the boss taught them the cultivation technique. Even if her cultivation couldn't reach the extremely powerful level as the boss said, she couldn't be worse than Andy. "Andy, work hard. I'll definitely surpass you later. Kang Xia whispered. Then I'll be waiting for you. Andy giggled and said. Sweat. Today's monthly ticket is only 5. I'm going to cry? Chapter 417. Blue City, Smower Hot Springs Center. Smoke curled up and surged in the open-air hot spring pool as 4 young men in shorts sat comfortably in 4 directions of the hot spring, talking and laughing wittily. Red wine and ashtrays were placed on the pool table beside them. 2 young girls in bikinis stood at the side, pouring tea and wine at any time. I say, brothers, this hot spring in our Blue City is pretty good, right? Long Zhenglin rubbed his big bald head with a cigar between the fingers of his other hand. He said with a beaming smile as he smoked. Not bad. Very good. Huang Su grinned. It's a pity that the boss here doesn't know how to be flexible. He doesn't know how to get some chicks to accompany us in this open-air hot spring. I say, second young master Huang, can't you live without women? Fei Shan mocked. If you want to play with chicks, go somewhere else. Huang Su grinned and said, hee, there's no such thing as this place. All right. I won't talk about women anymore. But you Long Zhenglin, you invited us brothers here. Don't tell me it's just to soak in the hot spring? Is it your advertising company in Blue City that you want to pull some business from us? Long Zhenglin raised his thumbs up and praised. My parents gave birth to me, and brother Huang knows me best. As you all know, our Long family has produced a powerful talent, and that is my brother. He's in charge of the family business, so I don't need to worry about it. So, I can only rely on myself to go to Blue City. The 3 of you are the local bullies of Blue City. I can't do it without your help. You're smart. Huang Su laughed. You can rest assured about the business. We'll help you pull some business after we go back. Anyways, what has your brother been busy with recently? I haven't seen his shadow for a long time. What else? Long Zhenglin laughed. He received a big business a few days ago and has been busy abroad. I've been back several times recently, but I haven't seen him. Your Long family's business has already expanded abroad. Huang Su was surprised. That's my brother's business. It has nothing to do with me. Long Zhenglin laughed. I miss the days when I hung out with Boss Tang. It was so full of passion. Fei Shan curiously asked, by the way, where is Tan Xiao now? Why didn't you call him out today? Long Zhenglin laughed heartily and said, how could eldest bro Tang have such free time? He has to go to school and run his business at the same time, so he should still be staying in Shanghai. A few days ago, I was thinking of finding time to go to Shanghai to look for him. Huang Su quickly said, Zhenglin, remember to call me when you go to find Tan Xiao. My mouth watered thinking about his company's fine wine. It's a pity. I've only managed to get my hands on 2 bottles so far, and I've even sent people to wait at the entrance of the specialty store in Blue City day and night. It wasn't easy for me to queue up and buy them. Fei Shan also sighed. That's right. I only got 2 bottles. Since we know Tan Xiao, we must go through the back door and get a lot of God's nectar. God's nectar? The young man who had been silent all this time suddenly had a change in expression as he asked, are you talking about the God's nectar produced by the magnificent Tang Corporation? Young Master Chen, it seems that you're also a wine addict. Huang Su said with a smile. God's nectar is indeed produced by the magnificent Tang Corporation, but unfortunately, the quantity is too little. The young man narrowed his eyes and asked, you said that Tan Xiao works in the magnificent Tang Corporation? Or does he know the magnificent Tang Corporation's top management? Huang Su, Fei Shan, and Long Zhenglin exchanged glances and the trio immediately grinned. With a bit of pride on his face, Long Zhenglin said with a smile, young Master Chen, eldest bro Tang is the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. Otherwise, do you think there's anyone else who can make this Long Zhenglin recognize him as a big boss? The young man was shocked. The magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss? Tan Xiao? I've sent people to investigate the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, but there was no result. It seems that someone is deliberately hiding his identity. I didn't expect that you know him. Introduce him to me if you have time. No problem. Long Zhenglin grinned and said, I'll introduce you to him when I go to Shanghai. All right. The young man clicked the button. Suddenly, his mobile phone on the poolside table vibrated. After putting the cigar in his hand on the ashtray, he grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. After connecting the call, he asked, "What's up?" Chief Chun, second young master, was beaten at the entrance of the Long's dining hall. Chun Sirui frowned and asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" Second young master is pursuing a girl named Andy from the Magnificent Tang Corporation. He proposed to her at the entrance of the Long's dining hall tonight. But Andy ignored him and proposed to another man instead. Later, they had a conflict and Andy beat second young master. I only heard about it and didn't see it with my own eyes, so I'm not clear about the specific situation. A voice came from the phone. I see. Chun Sirui shook his head and forced a smile. After hanging up, he dialed another number and said, "Jian, go to the Long's dining hall. CM was beaten up in the Long's dining hall. Find out what happened and who provoked him. Let him vent his anger." Understood. A middle-aged man's voice came from the phone. The three people in the hot spring pool all heard Chun Sirui's words. Curiosity was written all over their faces. Long Zhenglin asked curiously, "Young Master Chen, what happened?" "My younger brother was beaten at the Long's dining hall. I'm not clear about the specific situation though." Chun Sirui forced a smile. "Your younger brother is very good, but he's too old-fashioned and likes to be stuck in a dead end." Long Zhenglin grinned and said, "I still remember that he fought with others to get that yacht a few years ago. He even abused the other party so miserably. Yet he still didn't want to let it go. I heard that guy finally couldn't stay in Blue City anymore, no? His character is a flaw, but it's also an advantage." Chun Sirui sneered. "Most of the business in Star City has been handed over to him, and he's doing well. However, I heard that he recently fell in love with a girl who's an employee of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. His character is too gentle. If I were him, I'd use hard methods to get her." Long Zhenglin rolled his eyes and said, "There's actually a girl in this world who can refuse your younger brother? It's really strange. It can't be Kongxia, right? She's the apple of eldest brother Tang's eye. If anyone dares to touch her, I guarantee that eldest brother Tang will turn hostile." Chun Sirui shook his head and said, "It's not Kongxia. I think it's a girl named Andy." Andy? Huang Su and Fei Shan faintly felt that the name was familiar, yet they couldn't remember where they had seen it. Immediately after, they no longer cared about it and laughed and joked. At the Long's dining hall, Chun Si was sitting in a private box with a bloody nose and swollen face. His eyes flashed with anger as he smashed everything on the coffee table. As the general manager of the Long's dining hall, Zhang Tianfu forced a smile and didn't know how to comfort him. Ring, ring, ring. His cell phone rang. Chun Xian grabbed it and angrily glanced at it. He saw that it was a familiar phone number and immediately frowned. He picked it up and asked, "Jian, what's up?" "Chief Chen ordered me to bring some people to the Long's dining hall." "Where are you, second young master?" Chun Xian stared blankly for a moment. His complexion changed a few times as he said with a deep voice, "I'm in the Long's dining hall. You go directly to the 0602 box." "All right." The call ended. Chun Xian looked up at Zhang Tianfu and said with a deep voice, "Don't meddle in other people's business tonight. No matter what happens, I'll take care of it." Zhang Tianfu opened his mouth as he forced a smile and said, "Young Master Chun, your family also has shares in the Long's dining hall. If you make it too big, it will have a bad impact on us." Chun Xian sneered and said, "I told you that no matter how big it is, I'll take care of it." Zhang Tianfu was silent for a moment before he slowly nodded and said, "I'm not feeling well tonight. I'll go back and rest first." "Go," Chun Xian said with a gloomy expression. Long's dining hall, Jadewater Hall. The banquet hall that could accommodate hundreds of people was decorated with a festive atmosphere at this time. Rows of long tables were filled with all kinds of delicacies and drinks. At the end of the red carpet was a half-meter-high platform. A microphone was placed on top of the platform, while big speakers were playing at both ends. Inside the Jadewater Hall, dozens of Magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives were chatting with smiles on their faces. Nearly all of them were talking about the mysterious big boss. "Chief Wei, You're the oldest member of our magnificent Tang Corporation. You should have seen our big boss, right? Can you tell us about him? A middle-aged man holding a glass of red wine said with a smile. His words made the other 4 or 5 company executives around him look at Wei Zhongfeng. Since boss said that he'll come tonight, then he'll definitely come, said Wei Zhongfeng with a light smile. You want to know more about boss? Won't you be able to see him later? It's 6:52 p.m. now, 8 minutes to 7 p.m. I believe boss will arrive before 7 p.m. The middle-aged man said with a smile. Chief Wei, we know that we'll see boss tonight, but we don't know his character and temperament. Can you tell us first so that we can be prepared? Boss is easygoing and very wise, said Wei Zhongfeng with a smile. Yeah. The others nodded in agreement. A few minutes later, while everyone was chatting, Kong Xia and Andy came out from the Jadewater Hall's side door. As Andy walked downstairs, Kong Xia went straight to the innermost platform. She grabbed the microphone and said with a smile, Everyone, please be quiet. There are only 2 minutes left before 7 p.m. Our big boss doesn't like to waste time, so he'll come out soon. Now please give a round of applause to welcome our magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiao. Clap, clap, clap. As Kong Xia's voice fell, a continuous round of applause suddenly sounded. Chapter 418. Tan Xiao came out from the side door of the Jadewater Hall and looked at the company's top executives who surrounded him. A faint smile appeared on his handsome face. Although he was the magnificent Tang Corporation's boss, Kong Xia had given him the information of the company's top executives, so he could remember each person's name, position, and characteristics. At this time, the tens of top executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation looked surprised. It was hard for them to believe that Tan Xiao was their boss. After all, Tan Xiao was very handsome and spirited, but he was too young. Is he our boss? President Kong must be joking, right? This young man looks to be in his early 20s at most. How could he be our magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss? Is there a mistake? Is it our boss who came out? Isn't he too young? Rumor has it that our company's boss is very young. But it's really unbelievable for him to be this young. When I was his age, I was still an ignorant student in the campus, no? I heard that all the products of our company are developed by our big boss. How could he develop so many good products at such a young age? Amidst the discussions, Kong Xia revealed a charming smile and stood in front of the microphone to look at Tan Xiao. She then said with a smile, Everyone, you're not mistaken. He's the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiao, Mr. Tang. I know you're very surprised and even find it a bit unbelievable, but he's indeed the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss. You should know that our boss is very low-key and usually doesn't care about our company's affairs. It's not that he doesn't want to care about it, but our big boss is very busy. Aside from the magnificent Tang Corporation's business, our boss also has other businesses to deal with. So, if you're willing to work hard, our boss will give you a bigger stage and a better future. Now let's invite our boss to say a few words. Tang Xiao looked at Kong Xia, who gave up the position behind the microphone to him. He immediately let out an indifferent smile and walked to the front of the microphone. His eyes slowly swept over the crowd and then said, I'm well aware of the current development of the magnificent Tang Corporation, as well as the contributions made by all of you here. I feel at ease leaving the company's affairs to Kong Xia. Therefore, I hope that everyone can strictly follow Kong Xia's orders. Her orders are my orders. If anyone dares to turn a blind eye to it, or dares to abuse their power for personal gain, they will be directly expelled from the magnificent Tang Corporation. Let's talk about my requirements. Those who are strong will rise, and those who are weak will fall. If you have the ability, the magnificent Tang Corp will give you a bigger development platform and a limitless future. After speaking up to there, Tan Xiao fell into silence for a moment, and then slowly continued, One last thing. Tonight is the celebration banquet of our magnificent Tang Corporation. Your achievements have been affirmed, so I hereby announce that the salary of all senior members of the magnificent Tang Corp will be increased by 10%. Hua! As Tan Xiao's voice faded away, The tens of senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corp in the audience immediately looked pleasantly surprised. They looked at Tan Xiao with eager eyes. For them, Tan Xiao's affirmation was not as good as a monetary reward. They were all senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corp, and their salary and treatment were already very good. Coupled with their bonuses, it was already much higher than those of the senior executives of other large companies. If it was increased by 10% later, the total amount would be much higher. Clap, clap. It was unknown who took the lead, but all the senior executives in the entire banquet hall immediately applauded. For a time, the applause was thunderous. Tan Xiao gave the speaking position to Kong Xia and came to the audience. "Thank you very much for your generosity, boss," Kong Xia said with a smile. "I believe that everyone will be more motivated in their work in the future. I hope that the business of the magnificent Tang Corp will grow bigger and bigger with everyone's joint efforts in the future. I even hope that the business of the magnificent Tang Corp will go abroad and expand to every corner of the world. Tonight is our celebration time. Everyone eat, drink, and have fun." Having said that, Kong Xia then gestured to Andy in the audience. A smile hung on the corner of Andy's mouth. After coming to the stage, she said with a smile, "Although Boss and Chief Kong don't talk much, everyone should be very happy, right? Now let's start the banquet tonight." Soft crystal lights shone in every corner of the hall. As the magnificent Tang Corp's boss, Tan Xiao was naturally sought after by everyone. Almost every senior executive of the magnificent Tang Corp came to talk to Tan Xiao, wanting to show their existence in front of the boss. What made each of them pleasantly surprised was that Tang Xiao was able to accurately say their names and positions, as well as give them affirmation and encouragement for their work. Half an hour later, along with the melodious music, the lights in the banquet hall turned into colorful beams of light. This was a very common part of the banquet. A dance party. A dance party. Tan Xiao wasn't good at it. However, he still agreed to Kong Xia's invitation. Under Kong Xia's on-the-spot guidance, it only took him a short while to become a qualified dance partner. Bam! The crystal-clear water hall's door was kicked open as more than 20 strong men stormed into the banquet hall like wolves and tigers. The faces of the senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corp who were dancing slightly changed. As the lights turned on again, everyone's eyes fell on Chen Xian, who came in from the outside. Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows. He loosened Kong Xia's elastic and slender waist, and walked over to Chen Xian's provocative expression. "Are you here to make trouble?" Tan Xiao's voice was very cold, and a bit of anger was brewing inside. Chen Xian looked at Tan Xiao as though he had just seen his father's murderer. His eyes turned slightly red as he clenched his fists and fiercely stared at Tan Xiao, saying, "That's right. I'm here to make trouble. Where's Andy? Tell her to come out." Andy appeared in a flash. She pointed at Chen Xian and shouted, "Chen Xian, do you think I hit you too lightly just now? Hurry up and leave. Else don't blame me for beating you again." The corner of Chen Xian's eyes twitched and the anger in his eyes grew stronger. He glared at Andy and shouted, "Andy, there's something you don't know. There's never a time when Chen Xian, can't get what I want in my life. Tonight, I'll give you a choice. Come with me, or I'll cripple this so-called boss of yours. I'll give you half a minute." Andy glanced at the strong men that Chen Xian had brought with him, and his face showed some fear. But when she recalled that Tan Xiao was here, her timidity immediately vanished. Just as she was about to speak again, Tan Xiao reached out to stop her. Tan Xiao looked at Kong Xia and lightly smiled. "How much are all my clothes?" "Not counting the watch you're wearing, it's about 300,000 yuan. Although Kong Xia didn't know what Tan Xiao was thinking, she still replied respectfully. Tan Xiao nodded in response. His eyes then shifted to Chen Xian and lightly smiled. "Did you hear that? The price of my clothes is about 300,000 yuan. If I get stained with blood tonight, this set of clothes will be scrapped. The price of the clothes I've worn will be at least 100 times higher. Have you thought about it? If the provocation fails, not only will you disgrace yourself and suffer physical pain again, you'll also have to compensate me for the loss of 30 million yuan worth of clothes." "Ha ha ha." Chen Xian burst into laughter. His face was full of ridicule as he loudly said, "You're really crazy. Do you think you can be arrogant in front of me just because you're the magnificent Tang Corporation's boss? Can't you see the current situation clearly? Humph, you're just an idiot in my eyes." In an instant, the senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation present looked angry. They were all the top executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation, and Chen Xian humiliating their boss was the same as humiliating them. Although many of them knew that Chen Xian was a person in Star City, they didn't have a good impression of him. After all, Chen Xian had gone to the magnificent Tang Corporation many times to pursue Andy, which had already caused a lot of people to hate him. Plus, their big boss Tan Xiao had just increased their salaries, so many of them were ready to call the police. The smile on Tan Xiao's face receded like the tide. He calmly looked at the arrogant and domineering Chen Xian and asked, "Are you done?" "Yeah, it's time for Andy to choose." Chen Xian sneered. "Even if she chooses to go with me tonight, you'll still be beaten up and have to lie in bed for a few months." Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and praised, "I was hesitating about how much I should deal with you, but since you've told me, then I won't be polite anymore." His voice faded away. Tan Xiao instantly appeared in front of Chen Xian, and his lightning-fast fist directly smashed toward Chen Xian's face. Bam! A swift and violent figure instantly appeared in front of Chen Xian. The stocky Chou Jian waved his fist to block Tan Xiao's fist. His strength was very great. After his fists collided with Tang Xiao's, he staggered back 2 steps and bumped into Chen Xian, causing him to stagger and almost fall to the ground. His complexion greatly changed as he stared fixedly at Tang Xiao with his eagle-like eyes. Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows. His feet didn't move even half a step. He looked at Chou Jian with an astonished expression. He didn't expect that this guy's speed and strength would be so powerful. If it was an ordinary person who could withstand his hundreds of pounds of punch, they would have long been sent flying. However, he didn't hesitate. The moment Chou Jian steadied himself, he took another step forward. This time, his speed and strength were even greater. In an instant, he had already appeared in front of Chou Jian. His lightning-fast fist fiercely struck the side of Chou Jian's face. As Chou Jian flew backward, he kicked Chou Jian's waist. By the time Chou Jian flew to the side, he had already appeared in front of Chen Xian. "You dare to be so arrogant with just these shrimp soldiers and crab generals you brought?" Tan Xiao grabbed Chen Xian's lapel and directly slapped him a dozen times. After beating him into a pig's head, he kicked his abdomen and sent him flying 7 to 8 meters away. Then he heavily fell to the ground and fainted. Go. Upon seeing this scene, the more than 20 strong men brought by Chen Xian immediately rushed toward Tan Xiao. Today's 3rd chapter is over. Seeking monthly votes. If today's monthly votes exceed 300, Silent Night will update 5 chapters a day. Chapter 419. More than 70% of the magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives were men. Nearly half of them were young men due to Kong Xia boldly using newcomers. Therefore, after the 20-plus big men aggressively rushed over, Scarblade Chong and Wei Zhongfeng directly chose to join hands with Tan Xiao. They grabbed the wine bottles and other items on the table and rushed toward the big men. Except for some women and a few more timid men, the others hesitated for a moment before joining the fray. The scene of the gang fight was particularly chaotic. Tan Xiao didn't expect that the magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives would act, so he acted very fast. Whenever he found someone injured, he immediately attacked the enemy in front of the injured person. After just half a minute of chaos, more than 20 big men who followed Chen Xi, and to cause trouble were all knocked down. 5 or 6 top executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation were also slightly injured. "Boss, do you want to call the police?" Kong Xia, who had just stopped many people from calling the police, quickly came to Tan Xiao's side and asked in a whisper after seeing that all the troublemakers had been subdued. Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "No need to call the police. Tell everyone to wait here. Today's matter isn't over yet." Kong Xia hesitated for a moment before she nodded and said, "Do you want to send the injured to the hospital now?" Tan Xiao shook his head again. He strode toward the injured people and quickly treated them. Several top executives of the company who were bleeding had their wounds stopped bleeding after Tan Xiu's simple treatment. Everyone, thank you for your help. After today's incident, I found that the top executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation are very united and cohesive. Remember my words today. If anyone dares to bully our company's people in the future, everyone can join hands to deal with them. You can contact me directly if the other party has a strong background. As the company's boss, I'll stand in front of you and stand up for you. Tan Xiu looked around and spoke in a deep voice. Finished. He strode toward Chen Xian, picked him up, and slapped him a few times to wake him up from his coma. Then he threw him to the ground like a dead dog and coldly snorted. Now let's continue our talk. You brought your people to disturb the banquet of my magnificent Tang Corp, causing our company to suffer great losses. Furthermore, all the senior executives of our company are injured. How are you going to compensate for the medical expenses, loss of working time, mental damages, and so on? Chen Xian shook his head and looked at his subordinates who had been knocked down and were curled up on the ground, groaning in pain. Chen Xian's eyes were filled with disbelief. He seemed to be unable to believe his own eyes. He even raised his arm to rub his eyes, trying to make sure that he was not seeing things. However, he was disappointed because the 20 strong men he had brought with him had all been beaten to the ground. Chen Xian shifted his gaze to Tan Xiu. He opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Just now he was arrogant and domineering, saying that he would make Tan Xiu pay the price and make Tan Xiu lie in bed for a few months. Yet he didn't expect that the situation would turn out like this. Tan Xiu sneered and grabbed a wine bottle. He walked to the front of a big man beside Chen Xian and smashed it on his head. The big man screamed. Tan Xiu grabbed the blood on the big man's head and wiped it on his clothes. Then he turned to look at Chen Xian and sneered. I'll pay 30 million as compensation for my clothes. Plus the other losses. None of you can leave this banquet hall tonight if it's less than 200 million. 200 million. Chen Xian stared blankly for a moment. Anger burned in his heart again as he glared at Tan Xiu. He crawled up with difficulty and angrily yelled, Don't go too far, surname Tang. I can take out 200 million, but do you have the life to spend it? Pa! Tan Xiu slapped him and then pointed to a chair not far away from him to Scarblade Chong. Scarblade Chong moved the chair over with a smile on his face. After Tan Xiu sat on it, he crossed his legs and said indifferently, You don't need to worry about whether I have the life to spend it or not. I'll give you 2 hours. If you don't have 200 million as compensation within these 2 hours, all of you will take turns to be beaten up again. After that, I'm afraid you'll have to lie in bed for a few months. Chen Xian fell to the floor. He covered his face with one hand and supported the ground with the other. After struggling to sit up, a ferocious look appeared on his handsome face as he shouted sternly, Surname Tang, you've got guts. You just wait for me. Just wait for me. He finished roaring. He directly took out his mobile and dialed a number. Then he shouted, Brother, the people you sent for me have been beaten down. I got beaten again. Address. Long's Dining Hall, Jade Greenwater Hall. Got it. Chen Xian hung up the phone and glared at Tan Xiu with eyes full of resentment as he shouted, Surname Tang, you just wait for me. Our business is not over yet. Tan Xiu glanced at him with disdain. He then looked at Scarblade Chong and said, I don't want to hear a fly buzzing in front of me. Knock him out. All right. Scarblade Chong was, after all, a fierce bandit. He grabbed a wine bottle and directly smashed it on Chen Xian's head, directly knocking him out. Simor Hot Spring Center. Chen Sirui, who had just finished soaking in the hot spring and had already put on his clothes, had a chilling light flashing in his eyes. After hanging up the phone, he turned to look at Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan, and Huang Su and said indifferently, I have something to deal with, so I won't accompany you to have fun. Where are you going? Long Zhenglin asked in surprise. Chen Sirui said indifferently, My brother was beaten again, and the people I sent were also cleaned up by them. I'm going to the Long's dining hall myself. Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan, and Huang Su looked at each other in dismay with a strange expression on their faces. They never thought that someone would be able to clean up the people sent by Chen Sirui and even beat Chen Xian and in such an arrogant manner. Who was so bold? Who was so arrogant? Long Zhenglin thought for a moment and then said, Young Master Chen, I Long Zhenglin, invited you to Star City. Your brother is also my brother. He was beaten, and I'm the local tyrant of Star City, so I naturally have to help him. Let's go to the Long's dining hall together. I want to see who is so arrogant that he even dares to beat your Sameo group's second young master Chen. Fei Shan and Huang Su also said one after another. That's right. We're all brothers, so your business is our business. Let's go together. Chen Sirui was silent for a moment before he nodded and said, If so, I'll thank you first. An hour later, 6 cars were parked at the entrance of the Long's dining hall. As Chen Ximin, Long Zhenglin, and the other 2 got off, 14 or 15 big men in black suits also got off the cars with steady footsteps. Young Master Long Chen. Young Master Chen, you've come. At the entrance, the security team captain greeted them with an obsequious smile on his face. Chen Sirui snorted coldly. He simply ignored the security team captain and strode inside. Their overbearing manner aroused the curiosity of many guests who came to the Long's dining hall to eat or stay there. Soon, 2 big men opened the Blue Water Hall's door. Chen Sirui, Long Zhenglin, and the others aggressively rushed inside. When they saw the scene inside, the anger on their faces turned thicker. Long Zhenglin, with his tall stature, raised his hand to touch his forehead and shouted, Who ate the bear's heart and leopard's gall? Who dares to hit second young Master Chen? Get the hell out of here. Suddenly, his voice came to an abrupt halt as his eyes turned sluggish. Huang Su and Fei Shan also wanted to reprimand them, but when they saw Tang Xiu sitting on the chair inside, their mouths were agape, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Chen Sirui didn't know who Tan Xiu was. He looked at his younger brother, Chen Xian, who was beaten until he fainted. He also looked at the more than 20 men he sent. All of them were lying on the floor like dead dogs. The flame of anger was burning inside his heart. However, he was mature and calm, so he didn't let the flame of anger get to his head. Are you the one who injured my younger brother? Tan Xiu looked at Chen Sirui with an indifferent expression. His eyes then moved to Long Zhenglin's face and indifferently asked, Second young Master Long, you're doing well. Do you want to stand up for the Chen family? No. Long Zhenglin hurriedly shook his head and shouted. Chen Sirui was stunned. He turned his head to look at Long Zhenglin, who was desperately shaking his head. His brows deeply wrinkled. Tan Xiu coldly snorted. He looked at Huang Su and Fei Shan and asked indifferently, What about you two? Do you want to stand up for the Chen family? Huang Su and Fei Shan exchanged glances. Wry smiles appeared on their faces as they shook their heads and said, No, it has nothing to do with us. That's right. Since it's your matter, it's not convenient for us to intervene. Chen Sirui was stunned. He looked at Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan and Huang Su incredulously. Before coming here, the 3 of them were clamoring to advance and retreat together with him, and help him clean up his enemies. But now how could they? Long Zhenglin, Huang Su, Fei Shan? What's the meaning of this? Chen Sirui asked angrily. Long Zhenglin was silent for a moment and suddenly said, Young Master Chen, there's something you don't know. Your younger brother has provoked the magnificent Tang Corp's people. As for me, although I don't have any great ability, I have some small shares in some businesses under the magnificent Tang Corp's banner. Therefore, if your Chen family wants to deal with the magnificent Tang Corp, it's the same as dealing with me. If you really want to fight, don't blame me for not giving you any face. Chen Sirui was stunned. He didn't expect that these people in front of him turned out to be the magnificent Tang Corp's people. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something. His eyes looked at Kong Xia, who was standing beside Tan Xiu, and his expression suddenly changed. You are Tan Xiu? Tan Xiu lightly said, I never thought that a nobody like me would be known by young Master Chen. Should I feel overwhelmed by your favor? Chen Sirui finally understood why Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan, and Huang Su changed sides at the last moment. They knew Tan Xiu before, and even had some friendship with Tan Xiu, especially Long Zhenglin, who was dead set on Tan Xiu. If he and Tan Xiu were to fight, it was likely that Long Zhenglin would not hesitate to stand on Tan Xiu's side. Chapter 420. Chen Sirui's mind raced. After figuring out a lot of problems, the anger on his face disappeared and was replaced by indifference. Although he didn't know Tan Xiu's background, he could guess that Tan Xiu was definitely a very strong opponent from the performance of Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan, and Huang Su. Therefore, he didn't want to act immediately before thoroughly investigating Tan Xiu's background. Therefore, he was clear that he would suffer a loss tonight. Tan Xiu, although I don't know what kind of conflict there is between you and my younger brother, but if it's my younger brother's fault, I apologize on his behalf. I've heard of your name from Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan, and Huang Su before, so I want to turn a big problem into a small one and a small one into nothing. Chen Sirui pondered for a moment, and then calmly said, giving in? Tens of senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation were somewhat in disbelief at the current situation. When they saw Chen Sirui and Long Zhenglin's group coming, they thought that they were going to fight again. They didn't expect that Long Zhenglin, Huang Su and Fei Shan, who came with Chen Sirui, would unexpectedly change sides. They didn't expect that Chen Xin's older brother would directly choose to give in. For a moment, they felt a bit of admiration for Tang Xiu. Tan Xiu quietly sat on the chair and looked at Chen Sirui's indifferent expression. Then he indifferently said, I don't like to cause trouble, but your younger brother failed to pursue my company's female executive, and instead vented his anger on me. He even brought his men to interrupt our company's banquet and attacked us. I don't think I can turn this big problem into a small one, and a small one into nothing. Chen Sirui frowned and asked, what do you want? Tan Xiu turned to look at Scarblade Chong and lightly said, wake him up. Tell his younger brother to tell him what I want. Scarblade Chong complied and dashed to the front of Chen Xian. He fiercely slapped his face a few times and woke him up. Then, ignoring Chen Sirui's angry expression, he said aloud, Kid, your brother admitted defeat in front of our boss. He wants to know if tonight's matter is settled. He wants to know how to end tonight's matter. After Chen Xi woke up and saw the scene in front of him, he immediately shouted, Brother, it's them. It's this Tang guy Shut up. Chen Sirui snapped, interrupting Chen Xian. Chen Xian was stunned. He looked at Chen Sirui in disbelief. He opened his mouth, but his throat seemed to be blocked by something. Chen Sirui said indifferently, Tell me, what are their demands? Chen Xian turned to look at Tan Xiu and then at his older brother, Chen Sirui. He was silent for a moment before a wry smile slowly appeared on his face. He shook his head and said, Big brother, I really didn't expect that you would ask me such a ridiculous question after being beaten like this. Okay, I understand. 200 million. He wanted 200 million as compensation. I can't get the money now, so help me pay for it. I'll return it to you later. Chen Sirui frowned. He turned to the middle-aged man beside him and whispered some words. As the middle-aged man strode away, he looked at Tan Xiu and said, 200 million will be transferred to your account later. Are you satisfied now? Can I take my brother and leave now? Young Master Chen, is it? Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. You're very good. You're very patient. Generally speaking, I won't spare people with your character, especially if you're my enemy. It's my principle to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. However, I don't want my company's top executives to think that I'm too cruel. So you brothers should be glad. Promise me one condition, and you can leave now. What condition? Asked Chen Sirui indifferently. Tan Xiu pointed to Chen Sirui and said indifferently, You brothers are not allowed to step half a step into Star City from today onwards. Else, I don't mind visiting your Chen family in Blue City. Of course, if you brothers want to retaliate, feel free to come at me. I really want to see how much ability your Chen family has. Maybe you'll be able to see it one day in the future, said Chen Sirui apathetically. I agree to your condition. A murderous intent flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he said indifferently, Get the hell out. Chen Sirui made a gesture. More than a dozen strong men immediately supported Chen Xian and his men, and quickly left. Tan Xiu looked at Long Zhenglin, Fei Shan, and Huang Su, who hadn't left, and asked indifferently, Is there something else? With an obsequious smile, Long Zhenglin came to Tan Xiu's front and said, Eldest brother, don't show me such a distant and unapproachable look. People say that those who don't know can't be blamed. I didn't know that the Chun brothers provoked you. Had I known, you wouldn't even need to act, and I would have cleaned them up myself. Hee, you'll be fine later, right? I'll treat you to a drink. It's not easy to see you, so don't refuse, else I'll be sad. Fei Shan and Huang Su exchanged glances. Immediately after, Fei Shan came to Tan Xiu's front and said with a forced smile, Brother Tang, we really didn't know that the Chen family's second brother provoked you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come here. We're friends, so don't let this trivial matter affect our friendship. Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. Then he nodded and said, What Long Zhenglin just said is correct. Those who don't know can't be blamed. You can go back first. I'll tell Kongxia to send someone to deliver a few boxes of God's nectar to you tomorrow. I told you that I'll give you good wine when we drank. Fei Shan and Huang Su looked pleasantly surprised. You're really a good friend, Brother Tang, said Huang Su with a smile. We'll definitely talk to the Chen brothers after we go back, so that they'll behave themselves in the future. Tan Xiu nodded and watched them leave. Then he slowly got up and looked at the senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation, who had a bit of respect in their eyes. Then he said with a light smile, I'm really sorry about the sudden situation tonight. But tonight, you've shown me that you're all good employees of my magnificent Tang Corporation. All those who were injured tonight will be rewarded 10 million yuan each. Those who weren't injured but joined in the fight will be rewarded 2 million each. Remember my words. If anyone dares to bully the brothers and sisters of the magnificent Tang Corporation in the future, I'll reward you if you dare to help them. Thank you, boss. Scarblade Chang was the first to laugh. When he participated in the fight, his arm was torn, and he could be considered as an injured person. The 10 million yuan reward made him smile so much that he couldn't even close his mouth. Although he got more than 10 million yuan as a dividend from the share of the God's nectar, he could only get the money at the end of the year. Furthermore, 10 million yuan was not a small amount for him. At this moment, he simply admired himself for his choice at that time. Thank you, boss. Thank you, boss. The other senior executives of the company who participated in the fight, even those who weren't injured, were all surprised and thanked him. At this moment, the way they looked at Tan Xiu was completely different from before. The boss was so generous. It was their greatest happiness. In just one night, their salary had been increased by 10%, and they also got 2 or 10 million yuan as a reward. It was like a dream to them, and they were filled with happiness. Those who didn't participate in the fight, however, looked vexed and regretful at this time. They now deeply regretted their actions. If they had joined in the fight, even if they used something to hit those people, they could have gotten a lot of rewards. The female executives were still fine. Although they felt some regret, they could still maintain their calm. However, the cowardly male executives felt their faces burning. While they regretted their actions, they also felt a trace of contempt in the eyes of the others around them. Such a feeling made them wish they could find a hole to burrow into to hide their shame. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, All right. Those who are injured, go to the hospital for treatment. Those who aren't injured, help take them there. Kongxia and Andy stay here. The rest can go back first. A few minutes later, the other senior executives of the magnificent Tang Corporation left, leaving only Kongxia, Andy and Long Zhenglin, who stood at the side with a smile. A trace of a smile hung on Kongxia's face, whereas Andy looked a bit restless. Speaking of it, tonight's matter was caused by her, and what she was most afraid of was that Tan Xiu would hate her. Tan Xiu looked at Andy's delicate and pitiful appearance, and secretly sighed inside. However, he was very satisfied that Andy also participated in the fight. Kongxia, from today onward, you and Andy must have at least 4 bodyguards with you. 2 of them will be in the light, and the other 2 will be in the dark. That Chen family's big brother is not a good person, and I'm afraid that he will be driven to desperate action and attack you. Also, send 2 people to follow Scarblade Chang in the dark to protect his safety. Tan Xiu ordered. No problem. I'll arrange it. Kongxia nodded. Tan Xiu looked at Andy and sighed. Andy, this matter is not your fault. It's that Chen Xian who is too arrogant. If you encounter this kind of situation again in the future, You don't need to have any scruples. Just hit him, and I'll support you if something happens. Upon hearing this, Andy looked up at Tan Xiao. A layer of mist appeared in her big bright eyes as she quickly raised her hand to wipe her eyes a few times. Then she nodded heavily and said, "Thank you, boss. I'm very happy that you won't hate me because of today's matter. I'll listen to you. I'll listen to everything you say. I'll do whatever you tell me to do." Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "All right, you're the boss of our magnificent Tang Corporation's finance department. Don't act like a little girl. You and Kong Xia are my people, so how can I hate you? Speaking of which, I also want to praise you because you've done a good job in some aspects, much better than Kong Xia." At the side, upon hearing Tan Xiao's words, Long Zhenglin was surprised and exclaimed, "Are you kidding me? Eldest brother, you've taken the Great Bell Kong and Little Angel Andy? They're all your women? What the hell are you talking about?" Tan Xiao scolded with a smile. "No one will think you're a mute if you don't talk." "Ugh." Long Zhenglin scratched his head with a silly smile, realizing that he had misunderstood. Chapter 421. Kong Xia was a bit helpless at the moment. Only now did she realize that Tan Xiao not only valued her and Andy's ability to run the company, but also their cultivation. "I'll definitely try my best, boss," said Kong Xia seriously. "Remember your words," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "I want to see you reach Andy's level. I'll personally take you to Jingmen Island after you've done that." All right. Kong Xia had long wanted to visit the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ in Jingmen Island. Tan Xiao's words made her firmer that she must go all out to cultivate in the future. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, "You two can go back as well. I'll return to Shanghai early tomorrow morning, so I'll leave the magnificent Tang Corporation to you." "You're going back to Shanghai tomorrow, boss?" asked Kong Xia quickly. "Then when will you come back?" "Don't worry," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "It's already September 20th now, so I'll come back on the 11th. Upon hearing it, Kong Xia immediately smiled and nodded. "Then we'll take our leave first. Take care of your body." Tan Xiao nodded with a smile. As Kong Xia and Andy left, Long Zhenglin stroked his chin and grinned. "Eldest brother, I dare to swear that the Belle Kong Xia definitely has an affair with you. The way she looked at you and the tone she used to talk to you just now, that kind of reluctance to part with you, it's simply the expression of a woman towards her beloved lover." Second young Master Long, I just found that your ability to spit out ivory from a dog's mouth has improved after not seeing you for a while, Tan Xiao said with a smile. "How about you tell me about what you've been doing in Blue City recently?" The smile on Long Zhenglin's face froze. After a while he scratched the back of his head and forced a smile. "Eldest brother Tang, can we not talk about such a sad topic?" Tang Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Even if you're a straightforward person, and pay attention to the code of brotherhood, it's better for you to not get involved in this kind of thing that will attract calamity and easily make enemies with others. Your Long family is a big family, but there are still many families in the country that are stronger and more terrifying than your Long family." The smile on Long Zhenglin's face vanished. He was not a stupid person, and he had already reflected after tonight's matter. Now that he heard Tan Xiao's words, he silently nodded and said, "Eldest brother, I have a plan." "It's good that you have a plan," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "We've been tossing all night and haven't eaten much. Tang, let's go. Take me to your place to eat." Long Zhenglin was pleasantly surprised. "Boss, you want to go to my place?" Tang Xiao unbuttoned his shirt and took off his coat, saying, "I'm covered in blood. My parents will definitely ask me about the situation if I go home now." Tan Xiao said, "First, I'll go take a bath there and we will have some wine. There's God's nectar in the trunk of my car." Long Zhenglin's eyes lit up. While walking toward the outside with Tang Xiao, he grinned and said, "Eldest brother, you promised to give Fei Shan and Huang Su some God's nectar. You can't favor one and discriminate against the other, right?" "I don't care. I want 20 boxes of God's nectar." Tan Xiao glanced at him and lightly said, "I'll give you 30 boxes. Send 10 boxes to your father and brother respectively." Suddenly, he seemed to recall something as he took out his mobile and dialed Kong Xia's number. After Kong Xia picked up the call, he ordered, "Take some time to send some God's nectar to Qin Jizhong and Yuan Zhengxian in the next 2 days. 10 boxes each." "All right." Kong Xia chuckled. Tan Xiao said, "Prepare 5 more boxes for me and send them to Southgate Town. I'll return to Shanghai tomorrow and give them to someone there." In. Kong Xia promised again. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiao and Long Zhenglin walked out of the Long's dining hall. Under the reverent eyes of those security guards, Tan Xiao took the car key from one of them and drove away. Long Zhenglin's villa was located in the vicinity of Star City University Town. Whether it was the location or the environment, it was quite good. From Long Zhenglin's mouth, he learned that the reason why he chose this place to buy a villa and use it as his place of residence was entirely because it was in the university city, where it was easy to pick up female students. Star City's Yalong Court. This place belonged to the upscale residential area of Star City. Although it wasn't a standalone villa, those who could afford to buy a house here were all rich people. Chen Sirui usually stayed here when he came to Star City. As usual, every time Chen Sirui came here, he would either be calm or happy. But today, his face was frosty and his heart was boiling with anger. Chen Xian, who was behind him, had a bloody nose and swollen face. He was almost unrecognizable from his previous appearance. After entering the room, he smashed many things in the room. "Big brother, tell me why." Chen Xian's eyes seemed as though they were about to spurt out fire. After venting his anger, he stared at Chen Sirui and shouted while gasping for breath. Chen Sirui walked to the sofa and sat down. Then he pointed to the sofa in front of him and lightly said, "If this was Blue City, I wouldn't have let Tan Xiao walk out of the hotel unscathed even if I had to use all my power. But this is Star City, their turf. A strong dragon can't suppress a local snake. I think you should be clear about this." "Bullshit. That Tang Xiao is very powerful, but those people around him are nothing but a motley crew," Chen Xian roared. "I don't believe our Chen family is worse than him." Chen Sirui snorted coldly. "Humph. Do you think I'll compromise if it's just Tan Xiao?" Chen Xian stared blankly and stiffly asked, "Who else?" "The Long family," said Chen Sirui. Chen Xian shouted, "Big brother, are you kidding me? Long Zhenglin is just a good-for-nothing young master. How can he represent the Long family?" Chen Sirui indifferently said, "I know the character of the Long family's patriarch, Long Hanwen. With his protective nature, if Long Zhenglin were to intervene, and we were to make a move against him, Long Hanwen would certainly retaliate against us. Further, Long Zhenglin clearly said that he has some shares in a certain product of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. The Magnificent Tang Corporation only has a few products, and each of them can earn a lot of money. If we touch the Magnificent Tang Corporation's interests, it's tantamount to touching the Long family's interests. Judging from these two situations, do you think the Long family will intervene if we act recklessly in Star City?" Chen Xian fell into silence. He was usually very smart, but the reason why he was so reckless today was that he was hurt and confused. Now that he thought about it, he knew that what his big brother said made sense. "Then we'll suffer a loss for nothing?" Chen Sirui sneered. "Our Chen family doesn't have the habit of suffering losses. That Tan Xiao is very arrogant now, but I guarantee that I'll make him cry one day. Just wait, that day won't be too late." Knock, knock. As soon as he finished speaking, someone knocked on the door outside. Chen Sirui stood up and opened the door. He immediately frowned when he saw Huang Su and Fei Shan standing outside. Then he indifferently said, "What are you doing here?" Fei Shan forced a smile and said, "We came to tell you something." Chen Sirui was silent for a moment before he turned around and walked inside. After Huang Su and Fei Shan entered the living room, they directly sat opposite to Chen Sirui. Fei Shan spoke bluntly, "Sirui, listen to my advice. Today's matter will end here. Don't think about revenge. Just treat it as a lesson bought with money." Huang Su also nodded and said, "That's right. We still haven't figured out Tan Xiao's background, so you should dispel the idea of revenge. As the saying goes, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. We're all businessmen, and we may cooperate in some aspects in the future." Chen Sirui coldly said. If you two are here to persuade me, then I hope you can leave now. That surname Tang has gone too far, and I can't let this matter go. You don't know his background, but I'll send someone to investigate it. I want to know how much ability he has. Huang Su and Fei Shan exchanged a glance, and a wry smile emerged on their faces. After a moment of silence, Fei Shan slowly asked, Brother Sirui, you should know about the Zhang family in Blue City, right? Chen Sirui furrowed his brows and lightly said, Is it the Zhang family that has been uprooted and their company has been divided? Fei Shan nodded and said, Yes, it's this Zhang family. Chen Sirui said with a cold face, I know. What exactly do you want to say? Fei Shan solemnly said, What I want to say is that the reason why the Zhang family was uprooted and many forces are targeting them at the same time is all because of Tan Xiao. I want to ask you, can your Chen family uproot the Zhang family in a short time? Chen Sirui's expression changed and said in a deep voice, Fei Shan, we're friends. I don't want you to fabricate such a reason to avoid my revenge. Fei Shan sneered and said, I can leave immediately if you think that I'm deliberately making it up. But what I know is far from what your Chen family can find out. A glint flashed in Chen Sirui's eyes. His tone turned a lot more relaxed as he said, Then continue. Fei Shan said, The reason why Tan Xiao had a conflict with the Zhang family is that the younger generation of the Zhang family, Zhang Deqin and Zhang Yongjin, want Tan Xiao's life. Therefore, Tan Xiao simply contacted various forces to deal with the Zhang family. As far as I know, the big boss of Endless Virtue Pharmaceutical in Star City, Chen Zhizhong, is Tan Xiao's apprentice. The Long family and Tan Xiao also have a very close relationship. They also have a deep interest entanglement in the new city in Star City. As for the other forces, I think you may be able to guess them. Chen Sirui frowned and said, I can't. Fei Shan lightly said, The architectural design of the new city is the work of Tan Xiao. How many forces in the country are involved in it now? How many forces have joined forces to destroy the Zhang family? Chen Sirui abruptly got up with an incredulous look on his face and hurriedly said, You mean the Ouyang family of Jingmen Island, the Chu family of the imperial capital, the Bai family, the Azure Sea Miao group, and another mysterious force were all involved in the Zhang family's destruction? Today's third update is over. I'm weekly asking for monthly votes. Brothers and sisters who don't have monthly votes, please throw your recommendation votes. The number of recommendation votes has been decreasing recently. _. Chapter 422. Fei Shan looked at the shocked Chen Sirui and lightly said, I can't give a 100% guarantee whether it's these forces or not. But what I can guarantee is that after the Zhangs are destroyed, all the properties of the Zhangs will be divided by these forces. We're all smart people, so I think you should know what this means, no? Chen Sirui fell into silence. Despite the fact that his Chen family was a big family with more than twice the strength of the Zhangs, but upon hearing Fei Shan's words, his heart was still shaken by a stormy sea. If what Fei Shan said was true, then Tan Xiao's ability was far beyond his expectation. Once his Chen family retaliated against Tan Xiao, it was very likely that they would be ganged up on by these forces. Huang Su suddenly said, Fei Shan, what you said may shock Chen Sirui, but he can't be afraid. I think we should tell him Tan Xiao's biggest trump card, so that he can give up the idea of retaliating against Tan Xiao. Tang Xiao still has the biggest trump card? Asked Chen Sirui hurriedly. What is it? Chen Sirui asked. Huang Su glanced at Chen Xian at the side and indifferently said, Long Zhenglin has been hanging out with me a lot recently. We were drinking together before, and he spilled out one thing after drinking too much. It's Tan Xiao's true identity. Do you think Tan Xiao can manage the magnificent Tang Corporation to such an outstanding level if he doesn't have a deep background? What background? Chen Sirui asked in a deep voice. The Tang family in the imperial capital, said Huang Su. Hiss. Chen Sirui was shaken and couldn't help but gasp. How could he not know about the Tang family in the imperial capital? He once followed his grandfather, who was the most senior member of the Chen family, to the capital to visit some influential families in the imperial capital. But because the old patriarch of the Tang family had a very high status, Even his grandfather wasn't qualified to receive Tang Guosheng's reception. Only the third son of the Tang family, Tang Guoshou. Even if it was Tang Guoshou, his high status was enough for the grandfather and grandson of the Chun family to look up to him. Tang Xiu is really a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital? I don't think Long Zhenglin needs to brag about this matter. After Fei Shan and I heard the news from Long Zhenglin, we asked our friends in the imperial capital to inquire about it. Do you know what we found out? Chun Sirui quickly asked. What is it? The descendants of the Tang family who have been lost for many years have just been found recently, said Huang Su. The head of the Tang family, Tang Guosheng, the most powerful figure in the country, was that man's grandfather. After that, Fei Shan and I also quietly investigated Tang Xiu. We found out that he was always muddle-headed 3 or 4 months ago. He was simply an idiot with a mental illness. But suddenly, he changed and became very powerful. Whether it was in terms of learning, networking, or doing business, all of them were shocking. Say the Tang family had just found their descendant, and Tan Xiu began to show his dazzling brilliance. Is there no connection between them? Chun Sirui fell silent again. Through the conversation between Fei Shan and Huang Su, he finally realized what kind of person his younger brother had provoked. No wonder Tan Xiu dared to be so arrogant and domineering even though he knew that his brother was a member of the Chun family in Blue City. Chun Sirui, we've told you everything. If you don't believe it, you can use all the forces of your Chun family to investigate Tan Xiu's background. See if what we said is true or not. As for the retaliation, you and your brother should think about it carefully before making a decision. Fei Shan straightly stood up and said, considering that we've been friends for many years, we came here to tell you about this. If you don't listen to our advice and insist on doing things your own way, then don't blame us for not warning you. Chun Sirui took a deep breath and said, Fei Shan, Huang Su, no matter what, I'm very grateful for you coming here to tell me these things. I'll send someone to investigate Tan Xiu. If his situation is really like what you said, I'm afraid we don't have the courage to retaliate even if we want to, so you can rest assured. All right. Huang Su and Fei Shan's complexion eased a lot as they bade farewell and left. In the deathly silent living room, Chun Sirui glanced at his younger brother, Chun Xian, with a cold and detached expression and said, You heard what Fei Shan and Huang Su just said. If Tan Xiu is really as terrifying as they said, then we can only eat this grievance in silence. Let's put an end to this matter of revenge. A chilling light flashed in Chun Xian's eyes as he coldly said, If the Tang family is really behind him, then the Chun family doesn't need to care about the enmity between him and me. If worse comes to worst, I'll hire an assassin from abroad and kill him directly. Pa! Chun Sirui dashed to the front of Chun Xian and slapped his swollen face. Then he grabbed his lapel and shouted, Didn't you hear how the Zhang family was annihilated? Do you think the Tang family will let it go if you hire an assassin to kill him? With the Tang family's strength, it's absolutely easy for them to investigate you. Do you think you can be clean just because you and the Chun family are clean? When the time comes, the Tang family will directly vent their anger on our Chun family. Do you want our entire family to be buried together with you? Chun Xian covered his cheek and opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. That's right. If the Tang family retaliates, they will not only retaliate against him, but also implicate his family. For a moment, a deep sense of powerlessness grew inside his body. Late at night, Tan Xiu drove back to Southgate Town. He took a bath at Long Zhenglin's place and changed into another set of clothes bought by Kong Xia today. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he directly came back. As for Long Zhenglin, he drank a bit too much and went to bed in a daze. When the Land Rover SUV entered the villa's courtyard, Tan Xiu found that the lights inside were brightly lit. Su Lingyun was leaning on a chair at the door, reading a book. Meanwhile, Tang Yunda was by her side, holding a laptop and looking at something. The car's headlights disturbed them. Su Lingyun directly got up from the chair with a trace of excitement on her face. She trotted a few steps outside and looked at Tan Xiu, who got out of the car. A bright smile appeared on her rosy face. Son, I heard from your dad that you came back at noon. I was asleep at that time. Why didn't you wake me up? Su Lingyun said with a smile. Mom, I saw you sleeping soundly at noon, so I didn't wake you up. Tan Xiao smiled. I've just finished my business and came back. With a satisfied smile, Su Lingyun said. See how I'll clean you up if you didn't come back. That's right, shouldn't you be in Shanghai? How come you're back now? It's not the official class time yet, so I took advantage of the official class to come back and hold a celebration banquet for the magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Ding dong. A text message notification sounded from Tan Xiao's mobile phone. He took it out and read the text message. A smile immediately appeared on his face. The content showed that 200 million yuan had been transferred to his account. Seeing that Tan Xiao put away his mobile phone, Su Lingyun asked, Son, have you had dinner? If you're hungry, I'll cook something for you. I've eaten. I'm not hungry, Tan Xiao said with a smile. Little Yin, you can rest assured now that Xiao is back, Tang Yunda said with a smile. It's late now. He's been busy all day and I'm sure he's tired. Let him rest early. Let's talk about it tomorrow. That's right. Su Lingyun quickly nodded and said. Xiao came back from Shanghai and went to the company to work. He must be exhausted. Xiao, hurry up and rest. All right. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile. He didn't stay any longer and went to his room on the second floor. After transferring the 200 million yuan to the company's account, Tan Xiao sent a text message to Kong Xia and then lay comfortably on the bed. The next morning, Tan Xiao accompanied his parents to have breakfast and then decided to rush to Shanghai. He didn't take a plane since he still had plenty of time. Instead, he directly drove his Land Rover SUV and rushed to Shanghai with the fierce beast he had subdued. On the way, he received a call from Gu Xiaoxue and learned that the group of children sent to Jingmen Island had safely arrived at the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ. Gu Xiaoxue had sent some people to settle them down. Tan Xiao told Gu Xiaoxue to ask the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall to help him train for 5 months and select the 10 most outstanding children. 4:00 in the afternoon, Tan Xiao rushed to Shanghai University. He drove around the campus and found no one in the classrooms. He then went to the dormitory and found that the door was also locked. He couldn't help but dial Yu Kai's number. Hey Big Bro Tang, you finally showed up alive. Just as the call was connected, Yu Kai's voice came out of the phone along with some chaotic voices. I'm in my dormitory. Where are you? Tan Xiao curiously asked. I'm in the campus auditorium. Yu Kai shouted. Our campus is holding a freshman welcoming party tomorrow. The students who signed up for the performance are all rehearsing. A freshman welcoming party? I'll go find you, Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiao left the boys' dormitory and quickly found the campus auditorium after asking around. When he entered, he found that the auditorium was very lively. The big stage was divided into many small areas, and many students were rehearsing for tomorrow's performance. Big Bro Tang, over here. Hu Qingsong's loud voice came over with a northeastern accent. Tan Xiao smiled and came to the front of them asking, Are you going to sign up for some performance? Hu Qingsong rolled his eyes and shook his head. No. We don't have any talent at all. Signing up for a performance is like going on the stage and making a fool of ourselves. But Big Bro Tang, you're an amazing person who doesn't even need to participate in the military training. How about you sign up? As far as I know, someone has signed you up. Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a confused expression. Sign me up? Who? Chapter 423. Hu Qingsong pulled Tan Xiao's sleeve and pointed to the place with the most onlookers, saying with a smile, Of course it's the #1 beauty among the top 10 campus belles of our university. The top 10 campus belles? The #1 beauty? A strange look appeared in Tan Xiao's eyes as he asked. Our university has a campus belles ranking? Who's the #1? It's your good friend Mu Weining, of course. Hu Qingsong grinned. Sigh, there are too many people gathered over there. Otherwise, you'd be able to see Mu Weining's figure. Tan Xiao released his spiritual sense and instantly saw Mu Weining standing gracefully in the middle of the crowd. watching several girls performing a street dance. Quickly, he retracted his spiritual sense and shook his head with a smile. She helped me register, but it shouldn't count, right? She seems to be a graduate student at our university, not a classmate of ours at all. You don't know Big Bro Tang. Zhao Liang laughed and said, our teacher Han accepted the Great Beauty Moo's suggestion and filled your name in the program column. As for what talent you want to show, you didn't fill it. We should be waiting for you to come back and let you decide for yourself. We brothers are all waiting to see your performance. No way, right? Tan Xiao forced a wry smile. How can this be? Can I refuse? There's no reason to withdraw the program that has been registered. Zhao Liang shook his head. Unless you're absent, no one can do anything to you. But if you're absent, I'm afraid you'll be despised by all the students in the university. The university will even deduct your credits and give you a disciplinary warning. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment before he finally shook his head with a wry smile and said, forget it. I'll perform then. It's not a big deal anyway. I don't have any other skills, but I'm not afraid of talents. I'm proficient in chess, zither, calligraphy, and painting. I'll definitely shock everyone when I perform on the stage. Bah. Yu Kai, Zhao Liang, and Hu Qingsong gave a thumbs up to Tan Xiao at the same time. Brothers, I'm back. The dark-skinned Xue Chao ran back in a hurry with several bottles of mineral water in his hand. When he saw Tan Xiao, he immediately exclaimed in surprise, Big Bro Tang, you're back. That's great. We brothers can finally meet again. Tan Xiao chuckled and said, we're from the mountain. Xue Chao patted his chest as he grinned and said, us mountain people have rough skin and thick flesh. Look, I don't even have a problem jumping around now. Just take it easy, said Tang Xiao with a smile. Tan Xiao nodded and smiled. By the way, I just got my salary, so I won't be returning it to you for now. I'll treat you to dinner tonight to express my gratitude for taking care of me. Yu Kai and the rest already knew that Tang Xiao lent money to Xue Chao. Upon hearing Xue Chao's words, Yu Kai quickly shouted, no, no. It's not your turn to treat us tonight. Eldest brother Tang had stood him up several times, so he had to treat him tonight. Besides, we're going to participate in the military training, and we're all exhausted, but he's having fun outside. We definitely can't let him go so easily. Brothers, let's think about where we should go to have fun tonight. We must rip him off. Zhao Liang raised his hand and seconded. I agree. Big Bro Tang is usually very low-key, but he's absolutely not stingy. I suggest that we follow the same standard as last time, Yu Kai, and ask Boss Tang to give us a dragon. Hu Qingsong rolled his eyes and suddenly grinned. Brothers, do you still remember the promise Big Bro Tang made to us? He said he would introduce Beauty Moo to us, but it has been delayed until now. I think we should ask Boss Tang to invite Beauty Moo over tonight. Agreed. Good idea. Me too. Yu Kai and the other two looked like they had been injected with chicken blood, and their eyes lit up as they looked at Tan Xiao. Please, I'm not particularly familiar with Mu Weining. Do you think she will agree to my invitation? Tan Xiao forced a smile. She must agree, Yu Kai exclaimed. Just give it a try, Hu Qingsong exclaimed. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment before he nodded and smilingly said, all right, then I'll go ask her. You guys wait here. After that, Tan Xiao walked to Mu Weining's position. When he easily squeezed to the innermost area, he shouted, Mu Weining, I'm going to invite some of my classmates to dinner tonight. Do you want to come with us? At this moment, Mu Weining was concentrating on watching a few of her good sisters in the dormitory perform street dance. When she suddenly heard someone call out to her, and even invite her to dinner in public, she immediately frowned. When she turned around and saw the indifferent smile on Tan Xiao's face, she stared blankly for a moment before her furrowed brows stretched out. She walked a few steps to Tan Xiao and smilingly said, That's great. But can I bring some good sisters from my dormitory to join us? We've already made an appointment to have dinner together tonight. No problem. Tan Xiao nodded and said with a smile. Upon hearing the conversation between Tan Xiao and Mu Weining, the students in the surroundings immediately stirred up a commotion. Many male students showed hostility, and the way they looked at Tan Xiao turned particularly unfriendly. At this time, a handsome male student with a good figure, dressed in famous brand clothes, looked at Mu Weining and loudly said, "Mu Weining, I'm also going to invite you to dinner. Come with me tonight. I've already booked a private box in a big hotel in the city." Mu Weining glanced at him, shook her head and said, "I'm sorry. I just promised someone, so I can't go with you." After that, she turned around and came near the three girls who were performing street dance. She clapped her hands and shouted, "Hey, stop dancing. My idol is inviting us to dinner. Do you want to go together?" The three dancing girls stopped and came to Mu Weining's side with a curious look. One of them, a tall and beautiful girl, curiously asked, "Sis Weining, your idol? Do you have any idols in our university?" Pointing to Tan Xiu, Mu Weining said with a smile, "He's my idol. He's a freshman in our university this year." The tall girl incredulously said, "Are you kidding me, Sis Weining? A freshman is actually your idol? Do you know each other before?" "That's right." Mu Weining chuckled and said, "We knew each other before we came to Shanghai University to study. He's really my idol. Do you want to go together?" "I'll go. I'll go too." The other two girls looked curious. They looked at Tan Xiu a few times, and then said with a smile. They looked at Tan Xiu with bright eyes. After all, handsome boys were always popular wherever they went. Upon seeing this, the tall girl nodded and said with a smile, "Since all of you are going, I naturally have to go too. This handsome guy is wearing famous brands from head to toe. He looks like he's very rich. Let's rip him off today." Tan Xiu smiled indifferently and said, "That's fine. You go ahead with your business. Let's gather at the campus gate at 6 p.m. "All right." Mu Weining nodded and smiled. Tan Xiu didn't stay for long and walked outside under the envious and jealous eyes of countless boys. He came to the front of Yu Kai's group of 4 and looked at their expectant faces. Then he immediately said with a smile, "We've completed the mission. Not only will Mu Weining accompany us to dinner tonight, but her 3 sisters will also go with us. Long live Big Bro Tang." "Well done." Yu Kai and Zhao Liang exclaimed in pleasant surprise. "Don't be so proud." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "Whether you can pursue Mu Weining or not depends on your true ability." "That's right. Do you have something to do here?" "It's nothing. We're just here to look at the bell." Hu Qingsong shook his head. "If there's nothing else, let's go," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "It's 4:30 p.m. now, and I've made an appointment with them to gather at the campus gate at 6 p.m. Let's go." Since he could have dinner with the campus's first bell, how could Yu Kai still have the mood to appreciate the other bell, and was the first to call out? "Let's go then," Hu Qingsong also said with a smile. "Let's dress up and show off our skills in picking up chicks tonight." "That's right." Zhao Liang also laughed heartily. Xue Chao, on the other hand, didn't have any interest in those bell. His heart was pure and kind, and all his heart was on his wife and children. Naturally, he didn't have any designs on other bell. The group of 5 chatted and laughed as they left the campus auditorium. "Get in the car." Yu Kai waved his arm, and the 5 of them sat in his BMW. After coming to the dormitory, Hu Qingsong pointed to the Audi A4 next to Tan Xiu's Land Rover SUV and said with a smile, "Big Bro Tang, do you see that? That's the new car I just bought. Although it's not as good as Yu Kai's BMW 5 Series, it's still very good to drive." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing at his smug expression. Xue Chao was a simple and honest man. Upon seeing Hu Qingsong's smug expression, he immediately muttered, "It's just an Audi A4. Big Bro Tang has many good cars." Hu Qingsong stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly burst into laughter and said, "Xue Chao, did Big Bro Tang hypnotize you? Do you have to flatter his stinky feet like this? If he had a lot of good cars, wouldn't he have driven them to the campus to show off?" "I didn't." Xue Chao became anxious after hearing it. Tan Xiu patted Xue Chao's shoulder and said with a smile, "You're right, old Hu. If I had a good car, I would definitely drive it to the campus to show off. What do you think about this Land Rover SUV?" Hu Qingsong stared blankly for a moment before he nodded and said, "Not bad. It's a good car worth millions. I just observed it and found that it's a high-spec car, At least 2 million. Tan Xiao took out the car key and pressed it. The Land Rover SUV's four corner lights flashed. Tan Xiao shook the key in his hand and said with a smile, "Sorry, but this car is really mine." Dumbfounded, Hu Qingsong stared blankly at Tan Xiao with an incredulous look on his face. Even Yu Kai and Zhao Liang were dumbfounded as they looked at Tan Xiao and the car key in his hand. A smile appeared on Xueqiao's face again as he loudly said, "See? I told you that Big Bro Tang has a lot of good cars. In the garage of his villa, there's also..." Chapter 424. Tang Xiao observed the expressions of the people in front of him, and secretly sighed inside. He didn't like to be high profile, but he also didn't want to hide it all the time. After all, these students in front of him would spend 4 years with him. Instead of hiding it from them now, he might as well reveal it to them later. Additionally, when those adopted orphans were sent to Jingmen Island, an idea sprouted in his mind to recruit some capable students in the university and use them for him in the future. Shanghai University was a domestic institution of higher learning. Students who could enter this university, even if they were nerds now, could be trained to be competent for many jobs in the future. Each and every one of them was very smart. Don't dilly-dally, everyone. Let's go back to the dorm and pack up. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and turned toward the dorm building's entrance. Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the others exchanged glances before their eyes fell on Xueqiao. They found that the relationship between Xueqiao and Tan Xiao was really unusual. Xueqiao was very clear about many things they didn't know. Seeing their eyes, Xueqiao quickly turned around and ran toward Tan Xiao. "Big Bro Tang, wait for me." However, just as he ran 4 or 5 steps, Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the other two pulled him and squeezed him in the middle. Zhao Liang grinned and said, "Old Xue, don't try to play dumb. Tell me, how many cars does Big Bro Tang have? Also, you just said that his villa..." Xueqiao recalled what Tan Xiao had told him. He shook his head and said, "I can't say it. I promised Big Bro Tang that I can't say it. It's all old Hu's fault. I wouldn't have exposed Big Bro Tang's secret if he didn't show off." Tan Xiao turned his head and looked at the 4 people, shouting, "Hurry up! I'll tell you tonight if you want to know. If any of you are late and can't let us gather at the school gate before 6 o'clock, I'll tell Mu Weining how bad you are, and how you're not suitable for her. In short, I'll say a lot of bad things about you." Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the others hurriedly let go of Xueqiao and strode toward Tan Xiao. The trio smiled and flattered him again and again, spitting out flattering words as if they didn't cost anything. In the evening, 3 cars were parked at the entrance of the University of Monster Science and Technology. Tan Xiao and the other 4 sat in the 3 cars, waiting for the arrival of Mu Weining and the other girls. Time flew by. It was only a few minutes before 6 o'clock when Mu Weining and the other 3 girls finally arrived. When they arrived in front of the 3 cars, Mu Weining's expression was calm, but her 3 good friends were looking at the 3 cars with surprised expressions. On the other hand, Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the others pretended to be gentlemen. "Tan Xiao, you didn't wait too long, right?" Mu Weining chuckled. "No, we just arrived." Tan Xiao shook his head. "What do you want to eat? It's my treat tonight." Mu Weining smiled and said, "You can arrange it. We can all do it." Tan Xiao nodded and said with a smile, "All right, then I'll arrange it. Let me introduce you to each other. This is..." Following Tan Xiao's introduction, everyone got to know each other. Mu Weining also introduced her 3 good friends, the tall Li Xinjie, Jiang Fian, and Hu Wei. "Get in the car." Tan Xiao opened the door and directly sat inside. What made Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, as well as Zhao Liang's group feel helpless was that Mu Weining and her 3 sisters all got on Tan Xiao's Range Rover SUV. Despite their charming smiles, none of them showed the slightest desire to get in their car. How depressing. If I had known this earlier, I would have bought a better car than the Range Rover. Yu Kai muttered resentfully and then got into his car. The car started. As Tan Xiao drove the car away from the campus gate, he heard Mu Weining, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, ask with a smile, "Tan Xiao, you didn't participate in the freshman military training. What have you been doing all this time? I saw Teacher Han yesterday, and she seemed to be very angry after I mentioned you to her. Tang Xiu understood why Han Qingwu was angry with him. After all, she must have been stimulated by his unapproachable appearance when they met before. However, he didn't want to be entangled with Han Qingwu too much. Since she was angry with him, he hoped that she would keep her distance from him in the future. It's just a small misunderstanding. Tan Xiu didn't want to explain, so he casually said it. Mu Weiniang's mouth curled up. She had a woman's unique feeling. She felt that Han Qingwu treated Tan Xiu differently. Recently, she had heard some rumors about Han Qingwu and Tan Xiu. She also learned that after Tan Xiu was admitted to Shanghai University, Han Qingwu was transferred from Xingqing No. 1 High School to Shanghai University. Although it was said that people always strive for higher places, water always flows to lower places. Being able to teach at Shanghai University would have a better future than staying at Xingqing No. 1 High School. However, she felt that it had something to do with Tan Xiu. Junior brother Tang, are all the nouveau riche freshmen gathered in your dormitory this year? Land Rovers, BMWs, and Audis. Even many students who have graduated for many years can't afford these luxury cars, right? Jiang Fian was a bit cute. She was also the one who liked to smile the most among the girls. The smile on her face had never left her face ever since she saw him. I really don't know if they're all gathered in our dormitory, Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. But Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong's family background is pretty good. If you're interested in them, I can help you to act as a matchmaker. Jiang Fian giggled and said, We're interested in you. Why don't you take us in? Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, I won't find a girlfriend before I graduate from university. My studies are the most important. Puffed. Jiang Fian couldn't help but laugh and said, You're really funny, junior brother Tang. Usually it's girls who use this excuse to reject boys. I didn't expect you to use it now. Let me think about it. When I was in junior high school, I often used this excuse. When I was in high school, I also often used this excuse. University boys seem to like great beauties like Weiniang, as well as Xinjia, who has an oval face, and Weiwei, who has a scholarly aura. I'm not popular. You're very cute, Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Jiang Fian giggled and said, Does junior brother Tang like me because I'm cute? Cough, cough. Tan Xiu coughed a few times and no longer answered Jiang Fian's question. Fian, don't tease junior brother Tang, said Li Xinjia with a faint smile. Your wife will definitely be jealous if he really launches an attack on you. Ugh. Jiang Fian stuck out her tongue and giggled without saying anything. Purple Garden. There was a farmhouse in Shanghai's Jingxia district. He once chatted with Qi Nan and heard her talk about this place. It seemed to be very special. When the car drove into the quiet bamboo forest road, in just a few minutes, they saw a sparkling small lake. There were antique pavilions by the lake, and purple lights decorated the environment like a dream. Inside the purple bamboo forest, 80% of the parking spaces were filled with all kinds of cars, many of which were luxury cars worth millions. After the 3 cars stopped in the empty spots, everyone got off. Under the guidance of the handsome security guards wearing earpieces, they led the way to the undulating classical pavilions. Welcome. Please follow me, everyone. The waitress looked sweet. She had already arranged a private room after receiving the security guard's notice. She led the 9 people to the 2nd floor and entered a spacious private room with a beautiful environment. Then she said with a smile, Everyone, may I ask if you've come to our restaurant to order a set meal? Or do you want to order freely? Tan Xiu picked up the menu on the table and looked at it a few times. Then he said with a smile, Give us your signature dishes. We brought our own drinks, so give us a few kinds of drinks. All right. Please wait a moment. The waitress's eyes swept over the 2 bottles of wine Hu Qingsong was holding. She cleverly concealed her surprise and smilingly retreated. When only Tan Xiu, Mu Weiniang, and the others were left in the private room, Xueqiao's eyes widened and he exclaimed loudly, Holy shit! Isn't this place way too high-end? Big bro Tang. Why do I feel like I'm dreaming? Pfft. Ha ha ha. Everyone burst into laughter. Tan Xiu was also amused by Xueqiao's surprised expression. as well as his rustic yet innocent words. He walked 2 steps to Xuechao's side, put his arm around his shoulder and said with a chuckle, "Old Xue, your duty tonight is to eat, drink, play and have fun. After you get drunk, go back and sleep. When you open your eyes tomorrow, you'll know that you're really doing." "Ouch, what the fuck? Why did you pinch me?" "You can feel the pain, so I'm not dreaming," said Xuechao cheerfully. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. Although he didn't feel any pain, he still pretended to make a fuss in order to tease Xuechao. Amidst the laughter, everyone took their seats. Mu Weining was the most familiar with Tan Xiu among the girls, so she directly sat next to Tan Xiu. Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and the others wanted to move closer to Tan Xiu, but they became a bit embarrassed after seeing Mu Weining's quiet smile. "Big Bro Tang, where did you go during our military training?" asked Hu Qingsong. "I went on a trip," answered Tan Xiu with a smile. "Where did you go on a trip?" asked Hu Qingsong with a bit of envy. "I went to Jingmen Island and Shenong Ridge," answered Tan Xiu. Hu Qingsong gave a thumbs up and praised, "That was really cool. Just look at us brothers. We've been exposed to the wind and sun every day during the military training. But still, we're not as tanned as old Xue. My uncle said that tan skin is a man's true nature, and the darker they are, the healthier they are," said Xuechao. Hu Wei rarely spoke, but at this moment she suddenly said, "Xuechao, did your uncle ever tell you that a man who's too tanned isn't as popular as a pretty boy?" Xuechao raised his hand to scratch the back of his head. He shook his head and said with a silly smile, "My uncle never said that. My uncle is also quite tanned. Maybe he doesn't like pretty boys. But I think what he said is wrong. It seems that health has nothing to do with being tanned. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to heaven to look for my aunt before he turned 50. A smile outlined on the corner of Hu Wei's mouth. She looked at Xuechao's eyes, and the smile in her eyes was getting thicker. "On the last day of this month, I'm begging for monthly votes." Chapter 425. As the appetizing dishes were served on the table, they were all young people, and had become familiar with each other through chatting and laughing. However, in order to maintain their gentlemanly demeanor, Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and Zhao Liang ate much more elegantly than before, while Xuechao ate with relish. "Good wine, it's really good wine. It's much better than the home-brewed wine in the mountains." Xuechao gulped down half a cup of God's nectar, and sighed in admiration. Tang Xiu secretly rolled his eyes. God's nectar was a simplified version he had made. Countless powerhouses in the immortal world wanted to drink a few mouthfuls of it. How could the wine on earth compare to the fine wine he had researched? He was powerless to ridicule. Tan Xiu shifted his gaze to Mu Weining and said, "Mu Weining, I heard that you helped me sign up for the freshman welcoming party?" "Yeah, I helped you sign up," Mu Weining said with a smile. "You're not upset, Tan Xiu, are you?" "It's nothing." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "I'm just curious. How did you?" "I just happened to meet Miss Han." Mu Weining chuckled and said, "She said that the number of people in your class who signed up for the freshman welcoming party is too few and there are no programs, so I recommended you." Tan Xiu nodded. "Have you thought about it?" Mu Weining said with a smile. "What are you going to perform at the freshman welcoming party tomorrow?" "I haven't thought about it yet." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "I'll think about it tonight and talk about it tomorrow." Yu Kai suddenly interjected, "What's so good about the school's programs? How about we wait a few days and go to a concert? The second stop of the superstar Zhang Xinya's Asian tour is in Shanghai. I'll try to get some tickets for the concert." After saying that, he intentionally or unintentionally looked at Mu Weining. "Zhang Xinya?" Tan Xiu looked startled. He didn't expect to hear her name at this moment. However, Tan Xiu also guessed Yu Kai's thoughts. He probably wanted to go with Mu Weining the most, so he shook his head and smilingly said, "I'm not going. I'm not interested in those concerts. You can go and see them." Mu Weining shook her head and said with a smile, "I like Zhang Xinya's songs, but I don't like the atmosphere of the concert, so I won't go. As for Xinjia and the others, they are Zhang Xinya's loyal fans. You can bring them to the concert." Li Xinjia's eyes lit up as she looked at Yu Kai in astonishment. Can you really get the tickets for Zhang Xinya's concert? As far as I know, the tickets for Zhang Xinya's concert have been sold out a few days ago. Even those scalpers on the internet have run out of tickets. Yu Kai was a little disappointed when he heard that Mu Weining didn't want to go, but he still smiled and said, "Actually, my cousin knows Zhang Xinya's agent. When I saw my cousin yesterday, she asked me if I would like to go to Zhang Xinya's concert." "Yu Kai, you're really amazing," Li Xinjie said excitedly. "There are only 4 days left before Zhang Xinya's concert. You must take us there." Yu Kai smiled and said, "Don't worry." Time flew by. It was a sumptuous dinner that lasted for more than 2 hours. At the dining table, Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and Zhao Liang kept trying to get close to Mu Weining, only to find that Mu Weining seemed to have no interest in them at all. Every time she responded to them, she always looked indifferent. On the contrary, she was full of interest when facing Tan Xiu, which made the three of them feel sour inside. After the meal, Tan Xiu didn't refuse Yu Kai's proposal to go karaoke. He didn't want to spoil everyone's mood when they came out to have fun. After Mu Weining and her 3 dormitory sisters discussed it for a while, they finally decided to go with them. However, on the way to a decent KTV near Shanghai University, Jiang Fian received a call from her boyfriend. When he learned that Jiang Fian was out with her friends so late at night, her boyfriend insisted on coming. After consulting Mu Weining and Tan Xiu, Jiang Fian agreed. At Bailidi KTV, Noda's private room was resplendent. A huge LCD screen was playing pop songs. Although they drove 3 cars and were considered drunk drivers, they still ordered a lot of drinks with a fluke mentality. Of course, there were also fruit plates, drinks, snacks, and other things. At first, everyone was still a bit restrained when they sang. But as Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong adjusted the atmosphere, everyone gradually relaxed. Not only did Yu Kai, Hu Qingsong, and Zhao Liang sing several songs, but even Li Xinjie, Jiang Fian, and Hu Wei also sang a few songs. "Big Bro Tang, you sing too," Hu Qingsong called out in a clear voice with a thick northeastern accent. Tan Xiu smiled and waved his hand. He then pushed Xue Chao and said with a smile, "Let old Xue sing. I heard him humming a mountain song before. It sounds good." Xue Chao scratched his head and said with a silly smile, "Since Big Bro Tang likes to listen to mountain songs, then I'll sing some randomly." "That's right, I don't know how to choose songs. Who can help me choose, Xintianyu?" "I'll do it," Hu Qingsong said with a smile. As the music sounded, the familiar melody reverberated in the box. Xue Chao took the microphone from Yu Kai's hand with a confident smile on his face. "I bow my head to the ravine, chasing the passing years." His rough voice was full of a pleasant charm. Everyone was shocked when Xue Chao opened his mouth. It was good. Aside from it being good, everyone didn't know how to describe it. After Xue Chao finished singing the song, everyone sobered up from the shock. Along with the applause, Yu Kai hugged Xue Chao's shoulder and sighed. "Old Xue, I didn't expect your singing to be so good. You're not worse than those powerful singers. How about you stop studying? I'll set up a music company and be your manager. After I package you up, let's go make money, shall we?" With an awkward smile, Xue Chao waved his hand and said, "No way, no way. I'm just randomly singing. I don't even understand music scores. People will laugh their teeth off if I become a singer. Yu Kai, don't joke with me." In the corner of the sofa, Hu Wei's eyes were brighter when she looked at Xue Chao, and the smile on her face was thicker. A thoughtful look flashed in her eyes, and no one knew what she was thinking about. After laughing for a while, Hu Qingsong looked at Tan Xiu and said with a grin, "Big Bro Tang, it's your turn to sing a song now, right? Also, Big Bell Mu, we have so many people here, but you two are the only ones who haven't sung yet." Mu Weining looked at Tan Xiu, and found that Tan Xiu gave her a pleased gesture. She immediately got up and said with a smile, "Then I'll sing a song. But don't laugh at me if it's not good." Immediately after, Mu Weining chose the song Moon in the Sky. Her beautiful voice, melodious melody, and strong artistic conception were sung incisively and vividly by Mu Weining. Heavens! Weining, your singing is too good. If you become a singer, you'll definitely be comparable to my favorite singer, Zhang Xinya. Jiang Fian exclaimed with a shocked expression. Just like someone once said, I don't have much interest in music, nor do I want to be a star. Mu Weining chuckled. Who is that someone? Jiang Fian was confused. Pointing to Tan Xiao, Mu Weining smilingly said, there was once a teacher of a famous music academy in the country who repeatedly looked for Tan Xiao, hoping that he could go to that music academy to be a teacher or a professor. As a result, Tan Xiao said those words to that teacher. What? Everyone present looked at Tan Xiao with disbelief. Going to a famous music academy to be a teacher? Are you kidding me? How old is Tan Xiao? Even if he has deep attainments in music, he's not qualified to be a music teacher, right? Mu Weining, can we not talk about me? Tan Xiao said with a bitter expression. I really don't have much interest in music. I can listen to it occasionally, but if I want to be a teacher or a star, I might as well be killed. Yu Kai came to Tan Xiao's side and carefully observed Tan Xiao with wide eyes. Then he said with disbelief, Big Bro Tang, is what Beauty Mu said true? Is there really a teacher from a famous music academy looking for you to be a teacher? There is, but I'm not interested. Tan Xiao nodded. Yu Kai's lips squirmed, but he didn't know what to say. Suddenly, he realized that his understanding of Tan Xiao was really too little. It seemed that this classmate of his was very mysterious, no? Suddenly he recalled something. Big Bro Tang, I remember old Shui saying that you seem to have a big villa and a lot of luxury cars. Is that true? Asked Yu Kai. Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, It seems to be true. But those are gifts from my family. So you're also a rich second generation? Yu Kai exclaimed. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, I prefer to hear you say that I'm a rich second generation. Yu Kai rolled his eyes and scolded with a smile. If you're a rich second generation, then I'm a local tycoon. Tell me, what does your family do? A restaurant owner, answered Tan Xiao. Yu Kai raised his thumbs up and praised. Big Bro Tang, it turns out that you're the one who doesn't show your true colors. We originally thought that you're a poor boy, but it turns out that you've been pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. That won't do. I just looked at the wine list and found that some of them are very expensive. A bottle seems to be more than 5 digits, no? Give us a few boxes to rinse our mouths. Fuck off. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he scolded. Bam! The private room's door was slammed open as 2 youths walked unsteadily, reeking of alcohol. One of the youths glanced around, and his eyes lingered on Mu Weining for a few seconds before they finally landed on Jiang Fian. Fian, it's so late and you're still playing outside. Don't you know I'm worried about you? The youth staggered toward Jiang Fian and then sat down next to her. Jiang Fian furrowed her brows and grabbed the youth's arm, snappily saying, Why did you drink again? Why did you drink like this? I'm fine. The youth waved and said, A few of my fellow countrymen just came to Shanghai University to study, and they invited me to drink. If I didn't go then I wouldn't have given them face. Your man's alcohol tolerance is very good, and I also have an roué to help me make them drink. Those brats drank so much that they almost hid under the table. Ahaha. Chapter 426. Sitting quietly on the sofa, Tan Xiao watched the drunken youth with a smile on the corner of his mouth. From the way the young man came in, as well as his words and demeanor, Tan Xiao could tell that this man was pretending to be drunk. He looked like he was staggering, but his feet were very steady on the ground, and his eyes didn't have any drunken and blurred charm. Pa! Tan Xiao took out a cigarette and lit it up. He leaned back and smilingly said, Is he your boyfriend, Jiang Fian? He drank a lot of wine. Pour them a cup of hot tea to sober them up and take a rest. Jiang Fian gratefully looked at Tan Xiao and nodded. Got it. After saying that, she stood up to pour the tea. However, the youth grabbed her arm and pulled her to sit on his thigh. He hugged her and shook his head, saying, I'm fine. It's not a problem even if I drink a few more bottles. The other youth's eyes had been on Mu Weining since he entered the box. At this moment, he strode over and sat next to her. He grabbed the wine bottle on the table and waved it at Mu Weining, saying with a smile, I didn't expect you to be here, Belmu. I wanted to invite you to dinner before, But you refused because you had something to do. Well, it just so happens that I'll present you with a borrowed flower. Let's have a drink. Mu Weining didn't like drinking and didn't touch a drop of wine, even on such an occasion tonight. A sense of disgust rose in Mu Weining's heart when she saw the young man's flushed face and the smell of alcohol coming from his mouth. However, she still maintained her calm expression and shook her head. I'm sorry, I don't drink. The youth grabbed her wrist and smilingly said, Belle Mu, wine is a good thing. You can learn it if you don't know it. Come on, give me some face and I'll pay for all your expenses here tonight. Mu Weining's expression slightly changed. She directly shook off the youth's hand and stood up, saying coldly, Please conduct yourself with dignity, Zhujian. Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong exchanged glances and stood up. Just as they were about to take a step toward the young man named Zhujian, Xue Chao grabbed a wine bottle from the table and pointed it at Zhujian, saying, Brat, we don't welcome you here. You have two choices. Either get the hell out of here, or I'll open the ladle for you. Zhujian furrowed his brows and coldly glanced at Xue Chao. Then he immediately shouted, Ma Jun, your wife's friend is very arrogant. They don't seem to welcome us. The youth named Ma Jun's complexion changed. He pushed Jiang Fian away and slapped the table, shouting angrily, What do you want to do? This year's freshmen are so arrogant? Tan Xiao didn't expect that the situation would turn out like this. Upon hearing Ma Jun's words, he secretly shook his head. He got up and patted Xue Chao's shoulder, signaling him to put down the bottle. Then he looked at Jiang Fian and said with a smile, We've had enough fun tonight. Let's go back early, everyone. Jiang Fian, do you want us to send your boyfriend and his friend back to school? Jiang Fian was furious. The object of her anger was not Tan Xiao, nor was it Xue Chao's group. It was her boyfriend, Ma Jun, and Zhujian. Ever since she and Ma Jun started dating, although Ma Jun usually behaved well, he sometimes went too far. Especially this time, when Zhujian even groped Mu Weining, which was hard for her to accept. Birds of a feather flock together. She suddenly had a feeling that her boyfriend was always hanging out with Zhujian. Were the two of them birds of a feather? Just as this thought emerged in her mind, she suddenly felt sick inside. Once, she felt that her boyfriend had a lot of shortcomings, but it was not unbearable. But today, his behavior when he came here, as well as his friend's behavior, suddenly made her feel that her boyfriend was nothing compared to outstanding people. Appearance. He was not as good as Tan Xiao and Zhao Liang. Even Yu Kai, who looked like a beautiful woman, was more attractive than him. Family background. He was not as good as these people in front of him. After all, they were young people who drove Land Rovers, BMWs, and Audis during their school days. Their family conditions must be very good. Character. She felt a bit powerless to ridicule them. Although she had just met Tang Xiao and the rest today, they seemed to be much more mature than their peers. Ma Jun's calmness, maturity, and steadiness, Yu Kai's innate arrogance, Hu Qingsong's forthright, and Xue Chao's simple and honest character were things that Ma Jun didn't have. Comparisons were odious. Jiang Fian looked at Tan Xiao's inquiring eyes. After a few seconds of silence, she suddenly said, Let's forget it. I have something to say to Ma Jun. Let's go back by car. Tan Xiao nodded. He turned to look at Mu Weining and said with a smile, What about you? Do you want to go back with us? All right. Mu Weining nodded. Zhujian's eyes were a bit cloudy and uncertain. His angry eyes wandered back and forth between Xue Chao and Tan Xiao several times, but he didn't flare up in the end. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Even if he hated them inside, now was not the time to retaliate. Ma Jun, on the other hand, smiled and let Jiang Fian support him as they walked outside step by step. At the gate, Yu Kai intended to immediately drive back with everyone, but Tan Xiao stopped him. Instead, he looked at Jiang Fian and said, Take a taxi and leave first. Pay attention to your safety. Jiang Fian nodded and stopped a taxi on the roadside. When she helped Ma Jun to the car, and was about to get in, she found that Zhujian had already sat in the front passenger seat. She immediately furrowed her brows and said, Zhujian, Ma Jun and I have something to talk about alone. Can you take another car back? What do you mean, Jiang Fian? Zhuojian said with a displeased expression. We're going the same way anyway. What's wrong with going together? You can talk alone in the hotel if you have something to say. Jiang Fian angrily said. Who said we're going to the hotel? Even if we're going to the hotel, why are you going the same way as us? Zhuojian shrugged his shoulders and said, Ma Jun and I have booked a room in the hotel outside the campus. Don't worry. I won't disturb the two of you. Jiang Fian turned her head and looked at Ma Jun, who was leaning on the back seat with his eyes squinted. It was unknown whether he was asleep or not. She bent down and directly pulled him out of the car. Then, she looked at Zhuojian in the front passenger seat and said, Hurry up since you're going to the hotel. We don't like untactful third wheels following us. Zhuojian looked angry. But Jiang Fian's words were reasonable, so he couldn't refute her. He could only suppress his anger and let the driver drive. Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly. He then turned around and said, Let's go too. After that, the group came to the parking lot, got on the car and left. It was nearly 11 p.m. when they returned to campus. What made everyone helpless was that not only was the gate of the female dormitory locked, but even the gate of the male dormitory was also locked. What should we do? Everyone looked at each other in dismay and forced a smile. Li Xinjie frowned and forced a smile. I thought that the gate of the dormitory building wouldn't be locked as early as before since the freshmen just came back from the military training. But I didn't expect that it hasn't changed at all. What should we do now? Mu Weining pondered for a moment and then said, Let's go to the hotel. There's a 4-star hotel near our campus. We can go there and stay. Great idea. I agree. Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong called out at the same time with smiles on their faces. Xue Chao frowned and said in a low voice, I know a 4-star hotel. I heard that staying in such a high-class hotel will cost a lot of money for a night. We might as well go to eldest Bro Tang's place. In any case, we have enough rooms. His voice was not loud, but everyone present could hear it clearly. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu glared at Xue Chao snappily. He knew that Xue Chao wanted to save money, but what was the point of bringing everyone to his place? Furthermore, Mu Weining's family was very well off. Let alone inviting everyone to stay in a 4-star hotel for a night. It wouldn't be a problem even if she invited everyone to stay in a 4-star hotel for a year and a half. However, looking at everyone's gazes, he forced a smile and said, How about we go to my place? I'm afraid we can't live in a room for everyone, but it's not a problem to squeeze a bit. Where do you live, Tan Xiu? Asked Mu Weining with a confused expression. I live in the Blue Star Villa complex near the campus, said Tan Xiu. Blue Star Villa complex? Mu Weining was surprised. You have a villa there? My family gave it to me, saying that I have a place to stay in Shanghai, said Tan Xiu. At this time, except for Mu Weining who was a bit surprised and Xue Chao who looked calm, everyone else's eyes had widened with disbelief. Blue Star Villa Complex? The most upscale villa complex near the University of Shanghai? The mansion that countless students of Shanghai University yearned for day and night? Tan Xiu's family was actually so generous? Just so that he could have a place to stay in Shanghai, he bought a villa for him? Shocking. Even Yu Kai, who came from a rich family, desperately gulped down his saliva. He raised his thumb and praised, Big Bro Tang, you're really a mysterious person. The lowest price of each villa in the Blue Star Villa complex is more than 40 million yuan, and some of the villas even cost more than 9 digits. My dad has a friend who lives in the Blue Star Villa complex. I once went there with my dad to visit that uncle. I don't know the specific price, but it's fine as long as there's a place to stay, Tan Xiu said with a smile. Have you decided? Are you going to stay in a hotel for a night? Or do you want to stay at my place for a night? Mu Weining looked at Li Xinjie and Hu Wei and found them nodding repeatedly with shining eyes. She immediately couldn't help laughing and said, Then let's stay at your place for a night. Get in the car. Tan Xiu called and sat in the driver's seat. Quickly, the 3 cars arrived at the Blue Star Villa complex. Since the security guard knew Tan Xiu, the other 2 cars were directly allowed after a simple registration. When the cars stopped outside the villa's courtyard, the electric gate opened and the 3 cars drove into the courtyard. There's no space in the garage, So let's park the cars in the courtyard. After Tan Xiao got off the car, he looked at Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong, who also got off. Chapter 427. Hu Qingsong's mouth twitched a few times. He recalled what Xue Qiao said before and immediately called out, "Big Bro Tang, we want to see your garage. Xue Qiao said that you have good cars here. Hey Yu Kai, what are you doing staring blankly?" Yu Kai stared blankly at Tan Xiao. His lips parted and he muttered, "Big Bro Tang's villa is one of the most luxurious villas in the Blue Star Villa complex. I told you before that some villas in this villa complex are worth more than 9 digits. This villa is one of them." Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. 9 digits? That was more than 100 million. A villa worth more than 100 million, just to provide Tan Xiao with a foothold while he was studying in Shanghai. How rich was his family exactly? Don't stare blankly. Let's go inside. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Hu Qingsong hadn't forgotten the question just now. He quickly pulled Tan Xiao and said aloud, "Big Bro Tang, don't ignore my question. Hurry up and show us your garage. I want to know whether old Xue is bragging or not." Tan Xiao hesitated for a moment before he pressed the button on the garage key. In any case, everyone already knew that he had a villa. Wasn't it just a few cars? If they wanted to see it, then let them see it. As the electric door slowly opened, Hu Qingsong, Yu Kai, and the others ran toward the garage door. Only Tang Xiao and Mu Weining remained in the same place. "Tan Xiao, you don't seem to want everyone to know that you have a villa here, do you?" Mu Weining asked softly with a smile on her face. "I'm afraid that money will affect the relationship between classmates," said Tan Xiao with a forced smile. "But since Xue Qiao inadvertently revealed it, it's not good for me to continue hiding it. Else, they will have a knot in their hearts when they learn about it one day. So let them know." "You're right." Mu Weining smiled. "Now that they know the wealth gap between you and them, they might only be a little envious and jealous. Those who are envious can be friends, while those who are jealous will slowly drift away. But in the future, when they find out that you have a villa here, a lot of luxury cars, and even that your family is very rich and you are also very rich, they might really have a knot in their hearts. They might think that you don't treat them as friends and hide everything from them." "That's right." Tan Xiao nodded. "My God. I'm not dreaming, am I?" There were 4 parking spaces in the garage and 4 luxury cars. Each of them was worth millions. God damn it. If I had known that Boss Tang had so many luxury cars, why would I have bought such a small broken car? Hu Qingsong's wailing voice, which was filled with a northeastern accent, came from the direction of the garage. "Extravagant, too extravagant. Eldest brother Tang is simply a diamond bachelor. Just the total value of these 4 cars was something that many people couldn't earn in their entire lives. Heavens! Oh Mother Earth! Why am I not a woman? Otherwise, I'd have to marry Big Bro Tang and become a rich and powerful wife." Zhao Liang's howl also followed closely behind. Even Li Xinjie exclaimed, "These cars are so cool. If I can have one of them, I'm afraid I'll be dreaming for 3 days straight, and then wake up from my dream with a smile." Outside, Tan Xiao and Mu Weining exchanged glances. Tan Xiao had a forced smile on his face, whereas Mu Weining had a bit of a playful smile on her face as she said, "I can guarantee that if you don't warn them and tell them not to spread it out, I'm afraid that more than half of the students in our university will know that a nouveau riche has come to our university. At that time, you'll be on fire and the number of girls chasing you will be like the carps crossing the river." "Don't worry." Tan Xiao forced a smile. "I'll find a way to shut them up." Soon after, Yu Kai and the others came out of the garage and looked at Tan Xiao with shining eyes. Yu Kai then bluntly said, "Big Bro Tang, lend me your luxury car to pick up chicks later." "Me too. Me too." Hu Qingsong and Zhao Liang called out at the same time. "No problem," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "But you must promise me that what you saw and heard tonight must not be spread to others' ears. I don't want to attract unnecessary trouble because of the house and the car." "Agreed. Agreed. No problem." The trio promised with smiles on their faces. Scratching the back of his head, Xue Qiao said in a muffled voice, I don't have a driver's license and I don't like to pick up chicks. This car seems to be useless to me. If you're diligent in your work, I can help you put in a good word and double your salary, said Tang Xiu with a smile. Long live Big Bro Tang. Xue Chao suddenly became excited. Tan Xiu looked at Li Xinjie and Hu Wei and said with a smile, "Two beauties, I hope you can help me keep it a secret." A cunning look flashed in Li Xinjie's eyes. She stretched out 3 fingers and said, "If you can agree to these 3 conditions, I guarantee that I won't reveal half a word about what I saw and heard tonight." "You're really ruthless." Tan Xiu forced a smile. "Just say it. I won't refuse if I can do it. First, treat me to a week's meal. It doesn't need to be too extravagant," said Li Xinjie with a smile. "Second, find time to drive me around the campus with an open-top supercar." Upon seeing that Li Xinjie stopped speaking up to there, Tan Xiu immediately nodded and said, "Eating is no problem. The task of driving you around can be handed over to Yu Kai and Hu Qingsong. Tell me the third one." "I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you later when I think about it," said Li Xinjie with a smile. "However, as long as you can agree to my 3 conditions, I can help you if you want to pursue our great Belle Mu later." Tan Xiu secretly rolled his eyes inwardly. Although Mu Weining was as beautiful as a fairy, he didn't have the slightest romantic feelings toward her. Pursuing her was simply a joke. Immediately, he turned to look at Hu Wei and asked, "What about you?" Hu Wei said with a smile, "Xinjie's first 2 conditions are my conditions. The third one is that after we graduate, if we can't find a job, you must help us. In any case, you've already helped Xue Chao, right?" Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "If you have the ability, I'll definitely help you." Hu Wei happily said, "A gentleman's word is as good as a whip. Then it's a deal." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. Immediately after, he looked at everyone and said with a wry smile, "I kindly asked you to stay here for a night, but I didn't expect that I would be slaughtered by you instead. Why do I feel a bit unbalanced?" "Ha ha ha. Hee hee." Everyone roared with laughter. After entering the villa, apart from Mu Weining and Xue Chao, everyone else made a fuss. Finally, when everyone got used to it, Mu Weining and the other 2 women took out bedding from a room that was specially prepared for bedding. After making the bed, they went to separate rooms. However, everyone had a good time tonight, and came to Tan Xiu's big villa, so they were still full of energy. Under Xue Chao's summon, they went to the chess room and played cards inside. Ring ring ring, Tan Xiu didn't participate, neither did Mu Weining. The 2 of them went to the kitchen. After some hot tea, Tan Xiu personally brewed the tea and sent it to the chess room. Then he and Mu Weining went to the nearby block to buy a lot of snacks, and then returned to the villa. "What happened to you?" As soon as the 2 of them came back, they saw everyone coming out of the chess room with ugly expressions on their faces. "Fian just called me. She said that she broke up with Ma Jun and was beaten by him. He also forced her to go to the hotel. When she calls us, she hides in the bathroom and calls us." Tan Xiu's expression changed as he said in a deep voice, "Which hotel are they staying in? Let's go there now." "The Jasmine Hotel nearby," said Li Xinjie quickly. "Let's go." Tan Xiu said, "Jasmine Hotel, room 406. Jiang Fian locked herself in the bathroom. Outside the door, Ma Jun was constantly kicking the door and cursing. It was very unpleasant to hear. "You should give up on that idea. I must break up with you," said Jiang Fian loudly. Because she was very emotional, the wound on the corner of her mouth was affected and she immediately burst into tears due to the pain. Ma Jun kicked the door harder and cursed, "Stinky bitch, have you been charmed by that bastard tonight? You want to dump me? No way. Even if I'm tired of playing with you, you can't escape from my palm for the rest of your life. You bastard." Jiang Fian's heart was like being cut by a knife. The pain made her shiver all over. As a matter of fact, she still had feelings for Ma Jun. If Ma Jun could coax her tonight, maybe she would give up the idea of breaking up with him. However, she never expected that Ma Jun not only hit her, but also cursed her with such unpleasant words. Heartache. Heartbreak. She had completely given up on Ma Jun. A few minutes later, Ma Jun didn't even kick the bathroom door open because he really drank a lot tonight. Coupled with his ordinary physique, he was so tired that he finally sat on the carpet. Time passed slowly. When the door was opened from the outside, the hotel's lobby manager took the room card and quickly retreated 2 steps. He looked at Ma Jun, who was sitting outside the bathroom door, and smelled of alcohol. His eyes were full of anger. Hu Qingsong and Yu Kai were the fastest. After they rushed into the room, they each grabbed Ma Jun's arms and restrained him while Ma Jun was screaming. Ma Jun, where's Fian? Li Xinjie and Jiang Fian had been classmates for 4 years and had a deep sisterly relationship. She rushed to Ma Jun and asked with an anxious face. Crack! As soon as Li Xinjie's voice faded away, Jiang Fian opened the bathroom door from the inside with obvious injuries on her face and bloodstains on her arms. She rushed out with tears all over her face. Xinjie. Ooh. Seeing Jiang Fian's miserable state, Li Xinjie suddenly felt distressed and angry. She lifted her foot and fiercely kicked Ma Jun's crotch. Amidst Ma Jun's screams, she pulled Jiang Fian a few steps away and hugged her to comfort her. Tan Xiu secretly sighed upon seeing the scene in front of him. He then turned to look at the lobby manager and said, "Call the police. Imprisoning a girl in your hotel. I think it's best for you to call the police." All right. The lobby manager nodded and took out his mobile phone. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.